What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
10 GV. Chapter 261 The Whereabouts of the Signpost. The area of the Fishman Island is not very vast. That is, the size of an ordinary island in the sea, similar to that of an island country like Daros Rosa. But the population of this country can only be described as large. In such a vast territory as Alabasta, the total population is only about 10 million. The area of the Fishman Island is probably less than 1/10 of Alabasta, but their population is 5 million, which is 1/2 of Alabasta. Of course, Alabasta is a desert country with a severe shortage of resources. Most of the country is made of soil that is not suitable for life. It is a matter of course that the population will be scarce. But it is also an indisputable fact that the Fishman Island has a large population density. The number of murlocs and mermaids living on this island is really not rare. But when Du Lin wandered around the island with his subordinates on 127, there was only silence around. No way, just hearing the news that they came to this island, the people around have no choice but to escape. The world government is very serious about the demonization propaganda of the Illuminati and the Sun God. It is really difficult for ordinary people in the sea to get in touch with the truth of the matter. But it doesn't matter. It's better to say that after there are fewer people, you can enjoy the beauty of the island more. It is really very beautiful, completely different from the scenery above the sea. Du Lin came to a beach. Yes, there are also beaches on the Fishman Island. After all, most of the space in the island is air, and the huge bubbles that cover the entire the Fishman Island isolate the seawater. But in some low-lying places, there is also silted seawater. This place is called Mermaid Bay. But Du Lin really didn't see any mermaids. Aren't there many mermaids in the Fishman Island? Hancock looked around disappointedly. Where is it? Not to mention the mermaid, I didn't even see a single scale. Do not worry, Du Lin said calmly, you can watch as much as you want. Has come. You don't even need to look up, a huge whale is approaching rapidly in the sky. A large ring-shaped air bubble surrounds the whale's belly, allowing it to float in the sky. Riding on the back of the whale was a huge man, bare to the waist, with a brown beard that fell from his chin on his chest. The man's face was full of panic. Behind him are big fish one after another, and the big fish are riding mermaids or murlocs. The king of Dragon Palace City and his ministers are here. Dear God of the Sun. When the big fish was about to fly over, it suddenly lowered its altitude. Not far behind Du Lin, the king of Dragon Palace City, a man named Neptune turned over and fell down. The thick fish tail hit the ground heavily, and the man, whose body was close to that of a giant, bent down towards Du Lin in panic. Welcome to the Fishman Island. Neptune. Du Lin turned his head back. The huge His Majesty the King buried his head deeply for an instant, not daring to meet Du Lin's gaze at all. That's the name, right? Yes, yes, Neptune answered quickly without any hesitation. At this time, the people who followed him got off the back of the fish one after another, their waists that were more respectful than Neptune were almost bent, and their heads almost touched the ground. One of the most special ones was a woman in a white gown with ribbons hanging from her shoulders. The face is quite round, and the hair is golden yellow, not so smooth. Du Lin knew her. If she was not mistaken, this woman was the princess of the Dragon Palace Kingdom, Neptune's wife, Otahime the mermaid. A born observation Haki awakener has the amazing ability to spy on people's hearts and infect others with their own emotions. I have a question, can you answer me? Du Lin asked calmly. Certainly. Neptune naturally did not dare to refuse, of course I will try my best to answer all your questions. Very good. Neptune's attitude made Du Lin very satisfied. If only everyone in the world were so sensible, how many disputes and conflicts could be avoided? I heard that in the sea forest of the Fishman Island, there is a red historical text. Neptune's body trembled, and he subconsciously wanted to look up at Du Lin. However, he forcibly suppressed his desire, but Du Lin could see the sweat on his forehead. Puton hesitated. Then he finally pushed a little harder. Yes, respected God of the Sun, once upon a time, there were indeed 2 historical texts stored in Haiji Sen, 10 of them are red road sign history. Once. Du Lin raising eyebrows 0. Yes, Neptune didn't dare to hide anything, and said honestly, there is only one historical text left in Heizaizen, and we gave that red road sign as a gift. Sure enough, you are no longer in the Fishman Island. Du Lin nodded, so did you give it to me? It doesn't matter if it's not on the Fishman Island, as long as you know who owns it. However, after Neptune said this, Du Lin already had a guess. Neptune fell into hesitation again. Do you really want to say it? Isn't what I said just causing trouble for that man? Du Lin looked at the man coldly, can you tell me? Neptune. His Majesty the King of Dragon Palace City instantly had cold sweat on his face. Oops, going to PS this guy off. If this man is angered, maybe the entire Dragon Palace City will usher in the end. What to do? What to do now? Neptune was in a huge tangle. He certainly didn't want to betray his friend, especially the one who saved the Fishman Island. But if you don't betray your friends, it's the entire the Fishman Island, the 5 million residents who live here. 3.5. What to do? Neptune was already dripping with sweat. Seeing his appearance, the corners of Du Lin's mouth could not help but curl up slightly. It's so entangled, then let me guess. It was the Whitebeard pirates who saved the country by dragging the murlocs out of the pirate Uzumaki during the Great Pirate Era, right? There is nothing else worthy of Neptune's gratitude except that group of people. Neptune raised his head instantly, his face was full of astonishment. Du Lin clapped his hands in satisfaction. Great, then I'll take it as your answer. If the final answer doesn't match this, then this island will probably only have a future that you never want to see. Neptune's mouth squirmed slightly. Then he finally lowered his head in dejection. Chapter 262 Manhunt. The Fish-Man Island Surrender. Brother Whitebeard, I am sorry for you. Neptune was downcast, with a dejected look on his face. He just felt regretful right now, very, very regretful. Of course he gave the red signpost history text to the Whitebeard pirates as a gift for saving the Fish-Man Island. At first, Brother Whitebeard was unwilling to accept it. He said that he had taken the Fish-Man Island into his territory, which was already the biggest gain of their voyage. But Neptune insisted on giving him the stone. After all, he felt that the Whitebeard pirates had finally come to support them, but they had nothing to gain. Nominally, the Fish-Man Island is their territory, but they neither collect taxes nor interfere in internal affairs. The Fish-Man Island is still the original the Fish-Man Island. So Neptune felt that no matter what, he should give him the most precious thing of the Fish-Man Island to express his gratitude. But the Fish-Man Island really has nothing to offer. The most precious thing should be the secret treasure stored in the jade hand box. But that's the dreaded drug known as the killer drug. After eating it, it can greatly improve the user's ability in a short period of time, but as a price, it will seriously overdraw the user's life, and eating a little more will even lead to aging to death. How could Neptune give such a dangerous thing to his benefactor? So after thinking hard, he thought of the red stone stored in the sea forest. When Roger came here to rub the content of the stone, although he didn't tell him what was recorded in detail on the stone, he also told him the usefulness of the road sign. Neptune thought, this thing must be of great help to Brother Whitebeard. So he persuaded again, and Whitebeard finally accepted the stone. But now Neptune just feels regretful. Why did he have to do something extra? Why did he have to add something to the snake? Doesn't this send Bro Whitebeard in big trouble? Neptune wanted to cry but had no tears. When Neptune was about to cry, Du Lin had already activated the sky-lifting sky. Mahad and Morgans, who were far away on the island of the gods, instantly heard the voice of the god. Go and find out the whereabouts of the Whitebeard pirates, the Big Mom pirates, and Zozo. Well, wait, before that, Mahad, ask Sun Knight to check if there is a guy named Crocus in the base of Twin Gorges. If there is, ask him a question for me. Help me ask him where the final island is. Yes. After receiving replies from his subordinates, Du Lin nodded in satisfaction. Of course, it will not be easy to ask the Roger pirates for the location of the final island. Guys who can get Roger's approval will never be cowardly. If you want to break their mouths, it may not be easier than finding the remaining 3 road signs. But it doesn't matter if you try it, it's not a troublesome thing at all. It was at this time that Princess Otahime of the Fish-Man Island, who had been bending over respectfully behind her husband, suddenly raised her head. She looked straight at Du Lin. Dear Sun God, may I ask you a question? Du Lin looked at the woman in surprise. What? Oh, how are you going to get that stone back from the hands of the Whitebeard pirates? Du Lin just smiled. There is no meaning to answer, and there is no need to answer this question. But Princess Otahime has her answer. The expression on the woman's face instantly became compassionate. It was bound to be a fierce battle. How many people will shed blood in war? And she could hear the indifference of the sun god. His mood didn't even fluctuate at all. Let's go, take us to see this island. Du Lin said, I have heard about the beauty of the Fish-Man Island for a long time, but now there is a lack of people who will take us to appreciate this beauty. Yes, Neptune felt melancholy, but now there was no other way. Song Yushan entertained this group of people who came from afar. If you are not careful, what awaits the Fish-Man Island may be the end of destruction. As King Neptune of the Dragon Palace Kingdom, he certainly didn't want to see his country perish like a child's play. So, the king and princess of the Dragon Palace Kingdom and a group of ministers took Du Lin and some people to visit this beautiful island. With local snakes leading the way, the true beauty of this island was finally fully displayed in front of Du Lin and others. Gidekalong Square, Coral Hill, Waterwheel Town, Eupholi Mountain Villa. Almost all the famous places on this island are like this, and they are displayed in front of Du Lin and others without any haste. So beautiful. The final destination is the Forest of the Sea. This is a forest formed by the spread of corals on the bottom of the sea. A small part is inside the Fish-Man Island, and more parts have passed through the huge bubbles and extended forward on the bottom of the sea. Corals are naturally colorful, coupled with the sun's rays refracted on the bottom of the sea. This forest is even more colorful. So beautiful. Really, it's so beautiful. Hancock couldn't hold back his admiration. Yeah, indeed. Even Kisara, who has never been too cold about such things, agreed. Things like beauty have something in common. They are able to infect people's hearts. If you like it, then accept this island. Du Lin said as a matter of course. Ahead. To reject or to accept. If I choose to refuse, even if this country is not destroyed by the sun god in an instant, I will die immediately, and then this god will support other people to rule the Fish-Man Island. The mermaid princess paused, her expression relaxed a little, she shook her head, then I have no problem. Neptune's chest heaved violently, and when he was about to speak after a mild ideological struggle, his wife spoke. Although there are 2 options, there is only one that can be chosen. The moment Neptune and his party, who were leading the way, heard his words, their bodies tensed up. What is your decision? 117. Neptune. Dear sun god. Is there still an option for this? Du Lin said casually. Of course, what other places on the sea look like, this is what it looks like. The mermaid Otahime's body is very weak, and she can break her own hand with a slap, but she has extraordinary courage. Neptune and his wife had a good understanding. He nodded heavily. Of course there is only one answer. Amir the Fishman Island is not worthy of his different treatment. If you ruled the Fishman Island, what would you do to this country? Of course we choose to accept it. You can only choose to accept it. Neptune wanted to cry again but had no tears. Du Lin turned his head to look at His Majesty the King, who had his back turned. Reject or accept. Chapter 263 Fisher Tiger. Jinbei. In this way, the Dragon Palace Kingdom of the Fishman Island surrendered to Du Lin. This did not surprise anyone. Today, not many people in the sea dare to say no in front of Du Lin. Neptune's reaction was natural. Rather, it would be strange if he had the guts to refuse. Neptune is not alone, and if he were alone, then perhaps he would be lonely. But the problem is that he is not only the king of the Dragon Palace Kingdom, but also a diligent and caring king. This has already doomed him to never give up the whole country because of his personal will. Now that the country is facing threats, of course he can only choose to compromise. After Neptune chose to surrender, Du Lin and his group wandered around the sea forest and saw the historical text left by Joey Boye. This piece of historical text is the apology letter left by Joey Boye to the Mermaid Princess. It is because the previous agreement was not fulfilled, and the Fishman Island was not able to be brought to the sea. Although Du Lin doesn't understand ancient characters, it doesn't prevent him from being able to understand the content on this stone through his special ability. After visiting the island for a while, Neptune invited Du Lin and others to Dragon Palace City. He had already prepared a grand banquet to welcome the arrival of the sun god. At the same time, the news that the Fishman Island surrendered to the Illuminati has gradually spread. Even the flag of the Whitebeard pirates on the flagpole at the port has been replaced with the pattern of the Illuminati. Everyone knows what this signal means. As a result, the news began to spread rapidly to all parts of the Fishman Island, and then began to spread to all parts of the world through the phone bug. However, this news was unexpected, and did not cause much trend in the world. After all, the Fishman Island is famous. Many people in the sea know this place, and they are full of yearning for this beautiful island where merlocks and mermaids live. But in fact, people don't care much about the island. Who cares about an island that is not big, not even on the sea, and only lives with alien races? The only ones who care about this matter are the pirates in paradise. After all, if they want to go to the New World, they have to pass the Fishman Island. The Illuminati have always been hostile to pirates. I am afraid that it will not be an easy task to pass the Fishman Island next. But although this incident did not cause any waves in the sea, it naturally caused an uproar inside the Fishman Island. After all, even the Whitebeard pirates occupied the island in name only, and now, the Fishman Island is really going to surrender to a certain group. The people of the Fishman Island have mixed feelings. After all, it was the Whitebeard pirates who saved the country. But now Dragon Palace City has chosen to betray without hesitation. How can the people who have accepted the kindness of the Whitebeard pirates feel at ease? But ordinary people are actually secondary, the real key lies in another place. Outside of the Fishman Island, outside of that huge bubble, although there is a deep sea here, it is not that there is nothing but sea water. In addition to the sea forest that spreads forward from the inside of the Fishman Island, further along the sea forest, there is a block that is almost out of light and almost covered by shadows. This is Murloc Street, which is the backside of the Fishman Island. This was once the orphanage of the Fishman Island, but due to lack of management, it soon became a gathering place for bad children. The hooligans of the Fishman Island are almost all gathered here now. And in a certain building in this block. Brother Tai, you can't pretend you didn't hear about this matter. Wearing a cotton hat, the Murloc with a sharp nose roared loudly, it's fine to accept the protection of human pirates in the past. Neptune, that B*****************. D. The Fishman Island has lost all face, what dignity do we have to live in this world? Arlong, calm down. A relatively muscular blue Murloc next to him yelled loudly, don't let Chef Tiger think less. A man named Brother Tai, with bright red skin and thick lips, was sitting on a dilapidated chair at this time, with his hands folded and his chin propped up, lost in thought. How can I calm down? Arlong was almost bipolar, walking around the room throwing punches and kicks. Now even the entire Fishman Island has been trampled by humans. Okay, Arlong, be quiet. The Murloc tiger who had been silent all this time finally spoke. Yes, Brother Tai, quote. Arlong, who was crazy just now, seemed to have a problem with his brain, immediately calmed down now, and it could be seen that he had extraordinary admiration for this bright red Murloc. Illuminati, when I was traveling on the sea, I heard their names a lot. The Murloc named Fisher Tiger stood up, and he took a deep breath. These people are unprecedented monsters in the sea, even the world government can't do anything to them. However, since it concerns our country, at least we must ask clearly. Tiger's eyes were very serious. Of course he knew that it was absolutely impossible to resist those people, let alone take back his motherland from them. But it's impossible to just watch like this, you have to do something. At least go find that guy and ask them what they are going to do to this country, what are they going to turn this beautiful country into? Look. I'm going to Dragon Palace City. Tiger's tone was decisive. I'll go with you, Tiger Heaven Palace. Shumping spoke immediately, his eyes were equally solemn. And I, Arlong is certainly not to be outdone. Although he doesn't know how terrible it is to face the enemy, but it must prevent him from always following behind his most admired elder brother. Then let's go. He didn't mobilize too many people. To be honest, Tiger doesn't even want to take the two younger brothers, but he knows very well that neither Jinbei nor Arlong can be persuaded by words. These two people will never let him take risks alone. So I can only take the two of them together. The three of them came directly to the gate of Dragon Palace City through a special passage called the Way of Water. I want to see Neptune. Tiger said so. Chapter 264 Tiger himself. It has to be said that Tiger has an extraordinary popularity in the Fishman Island. He took his two younger brothers straight to the gate of Dragon Palace City, and then directly confronted the soldiers of Dragon Palace City who said he wanted to see the king. Then these soldiers not only did not expel him directly, but immediately ran into the Dragon Palace City very respectfully to inform him. Because Tiger was originally the leader of Murloc Street, and he had an extraordinary reputation among the Murloc crowd. He had been a guest of Dragon Palace City a long time ago. Even though the two parties had always disagreed and had nothing to talk about, the Neptune couple respected him very much. Among the soldiers in Dragon Palace City, many of them were recruited from Murloc Street, and they might not be more loyal to Neptune than to Tiger. At this time, a grand banquet was being held in Dragon Palace City. In the luxurious banquet hall, Du Lin sat in the seat that should have belonged to Neptune, and the maids and Kisara sat beside him. He watched the singing and dancing in front of him with great interest. Mermaid ladies of all colors are singing and dancing. In a huge water polo, mermaid girls with fish tails of different shapes dance like elves. Each one is unusually beautiful, not inferior to the hand-picked maids like Du Lin. The dancing poses of Miss Mermaid are already moving enough, what is even more moving is their singing. 217. The mermaid ladies singing along with the music are really like the sirens in myths and legends, and their singing seems to go straight to the depths of the soul. Incomparably touching. Sounds so good. Kisara gave the thumbs up without hesitation, and even a guy as picky as Enel couldn't help but smile. Nice. Du Lin thought so. Then take it with you when you go back later. It is also good to raise a pond of ornamental fish on the island of gods. In addition to the versatility of the mermaid ladies, Du Lin was also surprised by the food of the Fishman Island. It must be explained that mermaids hardly eat fish. Because they can communicate with fish. The mermaid's food is generally all kinds of algae on the bottom of the sea. It's great to eat some shellfish. But it doesn't mean that the mermaid's food will be unpalatable. On the contrary, because the ingredients are limited, they tend to spend more effort cooking them. Too delicious. Hancock couldn't control his little hands at all. Even though his cheeks had become swollen, he kept stuffing the food in front of him into his mouth. It was so delicious that even Du Lin ABBC couldn't resist eating more. Neptune was only slightly relieved until this time. It seems that today's difficulties can be overcome safely. I'm sorry, Brother Whitebeard, but there's nothing else to do right now. At least now the Fishman Island can be preserved. Now we can only hope that the Illuminati is really as they advertised, not as evil as the government claims. Neptune sighed in his heart. This is the sorrow brought about by weakness, and there is no chance of choice at all. However, just when Neptune was relaxing a little bit, Enel suddenly said, God, someone out there wants to see Neptune. Neptune froze for a moment. What and what? How did he know someone wanted to see him? The one in the lead seems to be called Tiger. Enel's knowledgeable color is not scary. As long as he is willing, he can easily monitor the entire island, and he can't hide any troubles in any place. Tiger. Du Lin raised his eyebrows. Tiger. Neptune and Princess Otahime couldn't help but look at each other. Could it be that Tiger really came? But how did this noble knight of the gods know this? They should have never been to the Fishman Island before. Then let them in. Du Lin smiled. Interesting. Yes. My God. Neptune still doesn't understand what's going on now. But now that God has already spoken, of course he can only choose to accept it. But, are Tiger and the others waiting outside Dragon Palace? When Neptune was struggling, a soldier trotted to the outside of the banquet hall. King Neptune. Fisher Tiger. Even before his words fell, Neptune's eyes lit up, and he quickly said, call them in quickly. It's actually outside Dragon Palace City. He couldn't help but slap Enel out of the corner of his eye in amazement. It's amazing. This is the power mastered by the Knight of the Gods. Even though they are still holding banquets now, they even have a clear picture of what happened outside Dragon Palace City. Yes, the soldier didn't expect the king to be so forthright. After being stunned for a moment, he immediately nodded respectfully and walked towards the gate in a hurry. Not long after, he brought 3 Murlocs into the banquet hall. Du Lin looked at the 3 guys. Headed by a strong man with red skin, followed by a fat blue man with a pointed nose. Tiger. Jinbei. Arlong. Du Lin focused on Jinbei and Tiger. The former is Shichibukai, the future helmsman of the Straw Hat Pirates in the original work. The latter is not simple either. Du Lin took a look at Hancock who was eating hazel. In the original, this guy rescued the 3 Hancock sisters. This is a truly remarkable man. But according to the original historical process, should this guy appear here now? If I remember correctly, this guy seems to have been a slave for several years, right? Did not return to the Fishman Island until after escaping, and then attacked Mariajoy the following year. Butterfly effect. Because of their own actions, these guys returned to the Fishman Island early. But it doesn't matter anymore. Lin noticed that when he was looking at Tiger, this guy also raised his head straight, and his sharp eyes were also staring at him. It's you. Brother Tai didn't even speak, but the Murloc Arlong, who was following him with a sharp nose, roared angrily, let Neptune give in, you be D who wants to trample the Fishman Island under his feet. Enel frowned instantly. Arlong. Quiet. Tiger pressed Arlong's head, his expression had changed a bit. He looked up at Lin. This man certainly didn't know that when he burned Mariajoy to nothingness last year, a Murloc slave who had just been captured there took the opportunity to escape. Tiger didn't even know whether to thank him or not. Although he himself was rescued, many familiar friends were burned to ashes by the flames. Tiger took a deep breath. In any case, this man cannot be angered. But the question that should be asked must be asked after all. Tiger took a deep breath. Chapter 265 Race Issues. Of course, Lin didn't know that Fisher Tiger, who had been reduced to a slave of celestial dragons, had escaped from Mariajoy because of him, ending his slave career ahead of schedule. He was simply curious, what did this guy want to say when he appeared in front of him now? After all, this guy has been looking straight at him since just now. God of the Sun. Tiger's voice was quite loud, just like him, even standing in front of Lin, even looking directly at the god, he didn't show any expression of fear or panic. There are such guys in this world. Even if they know that the guy in front of them is a monster that they cannot defeat no matter what, they can still stand upright and not be afraid. I just have one question. Tiger clenched his fists and asked loudly, what will it look like after 890 by the Fishman Island? What will you make of this island? Bold. Enel, who was already frowning, was furious at this time, and the lightning on his body began to jump. What are you asking? Who do you think you are in front of now? As long as God gives an order, he will immediately use thunder to turn the B**** D in front of him into coke. The expressions of the Neptune couple also changed instantly. They almost turned their heads to look at Lin in horror. If the sun god is provoked, then today will be the day of death for the entire Fishman Island. But Lin didn't mean to be angry, he even smiled. The Fishman Island has never been excluded from this world. Tiger's questioning has not stopped, and his tone reveals a hint of sadness. All our compatriots are treated like fish by humans. Freedom and equality have never come to this island. But, God, the great God of the sun, after you rule this island, will you treat everyone equally, and truly let all our compatriots be bathed in the glory of freedom and equality? Hearing what Tiger said, Neptune gritted his teeth instantly, and Princess Otahime immediately had tears in her eyes. For this island, it is to determine what the country will look like in the future. That's why Tiger took the risk of offending the sun god to appear here and question him. Even if he might die here, he must be sure of this. How touching. Lin smiled even more. But that question didn't even need him to answer. What stupid things are you talking about? Enel had already scolded furiously, you are underestimating the great god. Under the great sun, all are equal. The rays of the sun will not miss a pious man, save those damned rebels. One thing you need to be clear about is that we need God, not God needs us. Everything in this world is nothing but dust to God. How can you look at the dust differently? All things being equal, of course, right? Tiger was silent for a moment. He remembered the time when he was traveling on the sea, before he was captured and turned into a slave. He once went to the island covered by the Illuminati. It really touched him a lot. It was calm and peaceful. The priests of the Illuminati and the Sun Knights will never allow any chaos to appear in the country ruled by the Sun God. Even the pirates dare not attack those countries. If the Fishman Island can become like that, Tiger is certainly happy. But he worried that the great Sun God, like the crazy humans on the sea, did not treat the residents of the Fishman Island as equals. So even if he is risking death, he must ask this matter clearly. Fortunately, that problem seems to be gone now. Tiger let out a long sigh of relief. Then he said bluntly, I don't have anything to ask anymore, I can do whatever you want with me. He still looked at Lin, it's just that Jinbei and Arlong are innocent, they just insisted on coming with me, great God, please forgive them. God. Enel looked at Lin. As long as Lin nods, he will immediately execute all three of them. Lin smiled and flicked his right index finger lightly. The flame turned into a ray of light, piercing through the man's forehead in the next second. There was still strong astonishment on the man's face, and in the next second, his tall body had already collapsed to the ground. Arlong. Tiger turned around in astonishment. His loyal little brother had undoubtedly died at this time. The wound on the head that ran through the front and back of the head, not even a trace of blood flowed out, it was completely blackened. Lin said leisurely, no matter what, you shouldn't speak rudely in front of me. Brother Tiger. Jinbei clenched his fists instantly, the muscles on the arms have already begun to tense. Although he and Arlong have always had disagreements, seeing his old acquaintance die in front of him like this, of course he still feels angry in his heart. As long as Brother Tiger gives an order, even if he risked his life, he will make this group of people pay the price. But Tiger's chest just heaved violently. He didn't speak. Jinbei. After a long time, he hissed, Arlong only wanted to take it for himself. Quote. Jinbei opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. He knew that Brother Tiger had always been the most protective of their little brothers and compatriots. This man will never see his compatriots die in front of him and remain indifferent. Brother Tiger is patient. Because if you don't bear it at this time, the whole country will fall into crisis of destruction. I see. Jinbei said sadly. Since Big Brother Tiger has already made up his mind to 3.9, of course he can't let this painstaking effort go to waste. Jinbei raised his head to look at Du Lin, who simply sat cross-legged on the ground. Whatever you want to punish us, we'll be happy to punish you, but please don't blame this country. Jinbei said so. It's level. Tiger pursed his lips. Sorry. Haha, that's interesting. Just when both of them thought they were doomed, Du Lin clapped his hands and smiled. Although I committed disrespect, I don't hate coming here for my fellow countrymen. How about this? I will punish you from now on, and fight for me as my soldiers. The Murlocs of the Fishmen Island are a source of high-quality fighters, and their average physical fitness is more than 10 times that of humans. Chapter 266 Murloc Squad. Hydra. The gate of Dragon Palace City. Tiger walked out of the door slowly with Arlong's body on his back. A rather dazed look remained on his face. Just as bewildered as him was Jinbei, who was walking beside him. Brother Tiger. Jinbei finally couldn't help but asked, is this the end? That's the question I was about to ask, too. Tiger also gave a wry smile. I thought I was going to die, and I was ready to die. But I didn't expect to be let go so easily. Although the sun god killed Arlong, he didn't intend to pursue the two of them at all, and just let them go lightly. Even. Jinbei raised his right hand. A significant difference between Murlocs and humans is that there are webs between their fingers. Moreover, their skin can also secrete water, which is the foundation of the Murloc's secret body art, Murloc Karate and Murloc Jujitsu. But at this time, Jinbei's hands did secrete something, but it wasn't water, but golden flames. It even gave us these three kinds of power. Let us form a Murloc army. Jinbei's expression was quite weird. It was a strange expression mixed with surprise, astonishment, and confusion. He couldn't help being confused. After their offense, that one not only did not punish them, but even gave them power, making them a member of the legendary Sun Knight. And let them become the leaders of the Illuminati's special forces stationed in the Fishmen Island. Is the god of the sun really as radiant as the sun, benevolent and selfless? Such questions lingered in Jinbei's mind. It's not a bad thing anyway. Tiger said. Next, the Illuminati will preach on this island, and the Sun Knights will also be stationed. Since that god made us the leaders of the troops directly under us, at least we will have a certain right to make decisions about the future direction of this island. At least not just waiting blankly, but anxious in vain. Jinbei nodded heavily. All in all, the most important thing now is to quickly pull up the team that God commanded. Unlike the army belonging to the Dragon Palace Kingdom, it is directly under the Sun God's army, and its official name is the Gods Guard the Fishmen Island branch. By the way, Brother Tiger. Jinbei stopped in his tracks suddenly, and asked hesitantly, is the promise of that god really true? If it's just this kind of thing, he doesn't seem to have a reason to lie to us. Tiger said so. Before they left, the god made a promise to them. After the sun shines all over the world, the Fishmen Island will have the right to move to the sea. In that way, Murlocs and mermaids can bid farewell to this dark deep sea, truly bathe in the sunshine, and truly integrate into this world. That is the long-cherished wish of the Fishmen Island for hundreds of years, and it is the vision that generations of predecessors have dreamed of. Even Tiger and Jinbei are hard not to be moved by this. However, the thing they dreamed of is just a matter of effort for that god, right? There is no reason to cheat them at all. Tiger thinks so. Anyway, the doctor buried Arlong. Thinking of the dead Arlong lying on his back at this time, Tiger couldn't help feeling a little pity in his heart. Sure enough, he shouldn't have let them come with him just now. Since we already know that Arlong has a very hot temper and is full of hostility towards human beings, why let him come with him? Shouldn't this kid die in vain now? Tiger sighed. Arlong. Sorry, it's all for the country. The two decided to return to Murloc Street first. Tell your compatriots living there what the island is facing now. Then pull up a decent team first. After the two left, the banquet continued in Dragon Palace City. Although people died, there was no violent conflict, and the great god was not angry. The Neptune couple finally breathed a sigh of relief. They continued to smile, serving the great sun god and enjoying the banquet. Great. After the happy banquet, the god of the sun did not hesitate to show his appreciation. It's great that you're satisfied, and it's an honor for our entire the Fishmen Island. Neptune had a bright smile on his face. If that's the case, today's hurdle will be passed, right? I am very satisfied with this trip to the Fishmen Island. Du Lin smiled and said, what about you? The white dragon girl nodded impatiently. The scenery is very beautiful, and the food is also very delicious, it's really great. Me too. The little sister Hancock from the Nine Snake Kingdom also agreed. Not bad. Even Enel, who has always been aloof, did not make him nod in agreement at this time. So, Du Lin looked at Neptune. As a reward, Neptune. This, you guys take it. 2 balls of fire flew out and merged into the foreheads of the king and his wife. The two of them are still worthy of an ordinary tinder. Neptune and his wife had just seen the 530 appearance when Du Lin gave Tiger and Jinbei the fire, so they were not surprised by this, but respectfully bowed at the same time. Thank you so much for your generosity, great sun god. Du Lin nodded slightly. In this case, things about the Fishmen Island are almost done. Correct. Du Lin suddenly remembered something. He pointed to the beautiful mermaid ladies who sang and danced for the banquet just now. I am very interested in the song and dance of the Fishmen Island. They will go back with me to serve me. The great sun god has always paid attention to a straightforward, never beating around the bush. If you want it, say you want it. If you like it, say you like it. Neptune was silent for a moment. He looked at the mermaid girls chosen by the gods. The faces of the girls varied, some were bewildered, some were panicked, but more were looking forward and excited. To serve who is not to serve? Being able to release this great god is certainly more noble than serving the royal family, right? So Neptune finally nodded. Of course, if this is your wish. In this case, you can go to the next stop. The target is Amazon Lily. After all, if you promise to send Hancock back, you must do what you say. And the great sun god is also a little bit interested in that daughter country. Chapter 267. The gods arrive in the country of daughters. A certain sea area in the paradise. Suddenly, golden flames surged up under the sea surface, and they separated a huge crack in the sea surface. Immediately, a huge ship flew up from below and flew directly into the sky. This is of course the solar ship that went to the Fishman Island and carried the sun god. The next target is Nine Snake Island. Otherwise, if he wanted to return to the island of the gods, Dulin would directly activate the Flying Thunder God technique, and he would have arrived at the destination in the blink of an eye. Flying Thunder God must have coordinates to be able to move instantly, but obviously, Dulin does not have the coordinates of Nine Snake Island at all now. So it's the same as when we went to the Fishman Island, now we can only use stupid methods to fly over honestly. And if you want to go to Nine Snake Island, there is another troublesome place. On the deck, facing Dulin's question, Hancock blinked her big moving eyes in confusion, tilted her head. Where is Nine Snakes Island? I don't know. Dulin looked as expected. This girl is only 12 years old this year, and this is her first time going out to sea. If she knows where Nine Snake Island is, she will be a ghost. So now the problem is already in front of us. Where is Nine Snake Island? How to find an island in the sea without pointers and charts. If I knew this earlier, when I killed the Rayleigh couple, I should have asked them carefully. Of course, the two of them knew the location of Nine Snake Island. After all, that woman Shaki was the former emperor of Nine Snake Island. But it doesn't matter. Dulin immediately activated Tian Ting Kong Luo and dialed the hotline in his brain. Hydra Island. There is no doubt that the only person who will receive contact from God at this time is the #1 paparazzi under Dulin's command, Morgans. God, do you want to go there? Morgans immediately replied, the island is located deep in the calm belt, and it is extremely exclusive. There have been almost no records of outsiders landing on the island for hundreds of years. Even the nautical chart doesn't include the location of that island at all. I know this. Of course Dulin knew this. At this time, his brain is already equivalent to a humanoid computer, because all the charts at sea are also memorized by heart. But all the charts did not record the position of Snake Island. So now, is the critical moment for Morgans to play his value. It doesn't matter to me where the predecessors couldn't find it, now I just want to know how to find it. As God, Morgans immediately responded, although the exact location cannot be determined, it is not difficult to circle the approximate area. After all, the 9 snake pirates always operate in a fixed sea area. Please wait a moment, I will call my subordinates immediately and ask them to help me determine the scope. It didn't make Dulin wait too long. About 10 minutes later, Morgan's sky-high application arrived. Without stopping, he told Dulin the final area he had drawn. Because there is no pointer to guide the direction, it is a troublesome problem just to go there in this sea area of the Grand Line. But it doesn't matter, Morgans has already thoughtfully considered all the difficulties for God. Use the 2 permanent pointers to guide the direction to determine the detailed position of the ship on the chart at this time, and then you can move towards the target sea area according to the direction. The solar ship is of course equipped with excellent navigators, this is really not a difficult task for them. So after the position was determined, the big ship quickly set sail and flew towards the higher sky, and did not move quickly towards a certain direction until it flew up to the clouds. Although there is no exact location of 9 Snake Island, it is enough to know the approximate sea area where it may exist. After all, solar ships can fly very high in the sky. Looking down from such a height, it is really easy to determine the location of an island. Finally we can go back. The 3 Hancock sisters sat on the side of the boat excitedly, looking at the endless sea of clouds. It has been a long time since the last time I went to sea and left my hometown. After being abducted and almost reduced to slavery, now they are finally on their way back home. The faces of the 2 younger sisters were also full of happiness. Since being trafficked, there has never been a day when my heart is not filled with fear. Now I can finally go home, and I can finally get peace of mind. However, the 2 younger sisters suddenly remembered something, and the expressions on their faces began to become sad again. Sister, after returning to 9 Snakes, you really want to? Second sister Sandersonia lowered her voice and said sadly. Do not worry about me. Hancock was full of energy, and said with a smile, my sister will be fine, she's just working in another place, and I'll definitely come back to see you when I have time. Sister. The youngest third sister, Marigold, hugged her older sister directly, tears streaming down her face. Haha, it's okay, it's okay. Hancock patted his sister's back lightly, at the moment he is the most gentle sister. But in fact, there is no lack of sadness in her eyes. So the 2 sisters could only remain silent. As long as you return to 9 Snake Island, you can ask for help from the 9 Snake Pirates, maybe you can get rid of this group of people. Hancock is still very young, and she can't say how precocious, but she still understands such a simple truth. She witnessed the entire battle between the Sun God and that guy named Rayleigh before. Wouldn't it be possible to just watch my sister leave, and the sisters will be separated from then on? Suddenly Sandersonia's eyes lit up, and she put her mouth close to Hancock's ear and whispered, how about letting His Majesty take action? Even the 9 snake pirates would never be able to defeat such a guy. The two sisters couldn't help but shed tears again. No, Sonia, absolutely not. Neither this nor that. It didn't take too long, and Ju Snake Island arrived. Seeking help from the 9 snake pirates would only be counterproductive, and maybe it would anger this man, which would bring disaster to the entire 9 snake island. Sister, I have a solution. Hancock immediately covered his sister's mouth with a serious expression. I can't even think about this. It's too dangerous. If she could, why would she want to be separated from her 2 favorite sisters? That kind of exaggerated strength can only be possessed by a true god. But in any case, the big ship is still moving forward. Even she knows it. How could the good Zhao snake pirates defeat this god? Chapter 268 Queen Cecilia. Du Lin stood at the bow of the boat, looking down at the island below. Visible to the naked eye, there is a circle of high mountains in the center of the island, and there are huge sculptures on the high mountains in front, which are 9 huge snake heads. This alone is enough to confirm the identity of the island. After all, besides 9 snakes, there should be no other island in the sea with 9 big snake heads engraved on it. Finding the island was easier than I thought. When flying over from the sky, I saw that there were not many islands in this sea area. You don't even need to investigate, as you can already be a locked target with just a scan of your knowledge. After all, the only inhabited island in this sea area should be 9 Snake Island. Du Lin doesn't think that the residents on this island will allow neighbors to exist on the neighboring islands. It's 9 snakes. It's 9 Snake Island. On the deck, the 3 little girls cheered. Even though the sisters may be separated soon, at least at the moment when they are about to return to their hometown, there is only excitement and excitement left in their hearts that cannot be concealed. Login. Du Lin said bluntly. The solar boat accelerated forward immediately, past those towering statues in the blink of an eye, and 330 came to the real inland of 9 Snakes Island. The structure of 9 Snake Island is quite peculiar, with a ring-shaped mountain range in the middle, and a lush jungle outside the mountain range, which has hardly been developed. All the residential areas on the island are surrounded by ring-shaped peaks inside the mountains. Here is a wide plain, almost all the people live here. When looking down from the sky, Du Lin's first reaction was sparseness. The buildings on the plain were too sparse, and even large-scale settlements could not be seen at all. At most, a few houses were stingy and side by side. The area of this island is not so wide, even far less than the Fishman Island, and the area inside the crater is even smaller. Coupled with such a sparse architectural style, the population of this country may be too sparse. It may be out of place to call it a country, and it is almost a small town. In addition to the houses on the plains, the most distinctive features of this country are those suspended buildings built on the surrounding craters. And the most eye-catching thing is of course behind the 9 serpentine sculptures, that piece of buildings that can barely be called luxurious. There should be the capital of the 9 Snake Kingdom, and it should be the residence of the king. The arrival of the airship naturally attracted the attention of the entire country. After all, this plane is only so small, and such a huge ship comes across the sky, it is really hard for the residents living on this island not to see it. Warning. Enemy attack. There are no alarms or the like installed in this country, but a huge bell can solve similar problems. When the big bell suspended in the palace rang, the soldiers of the whole country immediately took action. Of course, the fighters of 9 Snakes are all women. Because the country is a summer island, the climate is hot, so all the soldiers wear cool clothes. But the most special thing is that each of them is carrying a snake. The partners of these worms, their weapons, like these long snakes tightened their bodies at this time, turning into bows. The warriors of the 9 snakes bent their bows and set their arrows, and the arrows entwined with haki were aimed at the slowly descending ship in the sky. Who are you? Among the buildings on the crater, soldiers jumped onto the roof. On the side of the palace, a guy who looked like a cadre level asked loudly towards the sky. Yeah, it doesn't look like you welcome us very much. He raised his right hand, and black and white thunder lights danced on his fingertips. God, do you want me to make them calm down first? No need. Du Lin waved his hand casually. Hancock, I'll leave it to you. Okay. Hancock also had a look of anxiety on his face. ADBF. If there is a real fight, it will be a bit bad. She quickly leaned out from the ship's side, waved her hand towards the bottom, and shouted loudly, it's me. Hancock. Everyone, don't do anything. It should be said to be immediate. The second Hancock shouted to the bottom, the soldier on the palace had already shouted in surprise. Hancock. Is it little Hancock? Are you safe and sound? Great. Really great. His Majesty the King has been unable to sleep for several days because of your worries. Where are Mary and Sonia? They are with you two together. We're here too. The 2 younger sisters also hurriedly leaned out from the side of the boat. Sister Lily. Both our sister and I are safe. So the big ship can finally land slowly. The soldiers stepped aside, and the big ship slowly docked on the flat ground below. Everyone, we're back. As soon as the big ship came to a stop, Hancock jumped down with his 2 younger sisters eagerly, and was immediately surrounded by enthusiastic snake residents. The 3 little girls were surrounded and hugged by a pair of hands to check whether there were any injuries on their bodies. Hancock, where the hell have you been all this time? Yeah, how did you suddenly disappear from the ship of the 9 snake pirates? What happened at that time? Who are these guys who sent you back? They look amazing. Their boats can fly. Question after question surrounded the three Hancock sisters directly. Because there are very few people in the whole country, the people are very familiar with each other. After learning that the three Hancock sisters were missing, the whole country was very worried. The three of Hancock were dizzy when they were directly asked by the enthusiastic sisters and aunts. All right, this is a very beautiful woman. Stop surrounding Hancock and them. We were arrested by man, and then saved by God. Woman, Nine-Snake Emperor Cecilia gently rubbed Hancock's little head. So, what happened to Hancock? At this time, a woman jumped down from the palace on the rock wall. He looked to be in the late 20s, with light blue long hair hanging down to his waist, a charming face, and a hot figure. God. The crowd parted, and the three Hancock sisters ran over happily, especially Hancock, who threw herself directly into the woman's arms. Du Lin frowned. Hancock was pretty terse. Your Majesty Cecilia. He met Du Lin, who was standing beside the boat quietly looking down at them. Pig. Wearing a slim ice blue cheongsam, followed by a blue sky snake. The woman's eyes froze instantly. The woman named Cecilia fiddled, then turned her head. I miss you so much. The woman smiled lightly. Chapter 269. The Reproduction of Nine Snakes. Thank you for your help. In the palace of the Nine Beasts Kingdom, a banquet to welcome the sun god who came from afar began. In a short period of time, this is also the second time to participate in a state banquet of a country. Du Lin sat cross-legged on a soft cushion, and next to him was the queen of the country and the current captain of the Nine Snake Pirates, a woman named Cecilia Jhin. The woman was toasting Du Lin with a gentle expression. Nine Snake Island is a very closed country. It should probably be regarded as one of the most isolated countries in the world. After all, this country is located in the calm belt, and there are no sea boats at all, and the most creatures that can be seen around the island are sea kings. The only thing they rely on to contact the outside world is the Nine Snake Pirates. Oh, and occasionally stray news birds come here to bring them some newspapers. But most of the Nine Snakes are not interested in newspapers. After all, most of them have never seen a man, even in a newspaper. But the Nine Snake Pirates often go to sea after all, so of course, His Majesty King Cecilia is also well informed, at least on this island. She is the god who knows the Illuminati and also the god who knows the sun. Of course she knew how scary this group was. Therefore, even if men who have been banned from landing since ancient times came to this island, Cecilia did not dare to show any dislike at all. She even took the initiative to invite Du Lin and others to the banquet. But strictly speaking, as the benefactor who rescued the three Hancock sisters and sent them back, it is normal to hold a banquet for them. Nothing. Du Lin said flatly, not even bothering to raise his glass to respond, it's just because of Hancock. Hancock. Her Majesty the Queen turned her head in surprise and looked at Hancock who was sitting obediently below. After that Hancock will leave with me. Du Lin said, she has the gift of becoming a knight of God. Her Majesty's hands under the table were clenched instantly. The expression on Mei Yin's face also became a little stiff. Hancock is quite talented, and she knows this, otherwise it would be impossible to take her on a voyage when she was so young, which would have already regarded her as a reserve member of the Nine Snake Pirates. In Cecilia's view, among the current children of Hydra Island, only Hancock is capable of inheriting her position as queen. Amazon Lily's succession to the throne has never been based on bloodlines. Strength comes first. After all, His Majesty the King of this country is also the captain of the Nine Snake Pirates. Without a certain strength, of course, he is not qualified to lead the pirate group. But now the heir he had chosen was poached by the man in front of him. Cecilia was furious. That would be wonderful, Her Majesty said with a smile. It is of course an honor for Hancock to be your knight. The cadres of the Nine Snake Pirates who participated in this banquet looked at their queen and their captain's current appearance, couldn't help clenching their teeth, and lowered their heads. Don't dare. Cecilia Sama has a good temper. She is not a perverse person, she is very gentle in treating them and the citizens, and has a very high popularity in this country. But that doesn't mean she's weak. On the contrary, when facing the enemy, she is very tough. After serving as the head of the Nine Snake Pirates for so many years, she has hardly flinched when encountering the enemy. But, now, she can only force her smile to please this man. Damn it. Anger, almost at the same time, was brewing in the hearts of all the officers of the Nine Snake Pirates. However, there is nothing to do. After all, everyone in this sea at this time knows how terrifying this sun god is, and that is the top level of violence that even the world government can't do anything about. Even Mariajoy and Marin were destroyed by him, so what is their mere Nine Snake Island? If one is not careful, the entire island and the entire country may be destroyed in an instant. The corner of Du Lin's mouth hooked slightly. In fact, I still prefer your plain appearance at the beginning. Seeing Her Majesty's appearance like this, Hancock's two younger sisters could only bow their heads and weep silently. It seems that it is unstoppable for the sister to be taken away, and they can only accept the reality of the separation of the sisters. Can I ask a question? Du Lin said suddenly, looking at Cecilia. Certainly. Her Majesty nodded tenderly. Even though the current attitude towards Du Lin can only be described as flattering, the expression on Her Majesty's face does not appear flattering at all. Gentle and calm, even giving people a feeling that it should be like this. 0. Ask for flowers. This country has historically been devoid of men, hasn't it? Du Lin asked with great interest, so what do you rely on to survive? Weird, right? There have never been men in this country, and it is very difficult to communicate with foreign countries in the Calm Belt, but they have been able to continue like this. How do women in this country get pregnant and give birth? It can't be that this country actually has a mother-child river, and you can get pregnant just by drinking the river water. Forehead. His Majesty King Cecilia's cheeks turned red suddenly, probably because he did not expect Du Lin to ask her this question all of a sudden. Isn't it a little too vile for a man who considers himself a god to be interested in such a thing? However, it is impossible not to answer. 0. After a little hesitation, Her Majesty the Queen said softly, if the girls on the island want to have children, sometimes the pirate ship will take them away from the island and go to the sea to find opportunities. The corner of Du Lin's mouth twitched. Looking for opportunities in the sea. This description is quite euphemistic. But if there are many people at the same time. Her Majesty's voice was softer, and the 9 snake pirates would also go overseas to catch some men back. What eats female groups? The corners of Du Lin's mouth never sank. Fortunately, the total number of citizens in this country is about tens of thousands. That is, where did the men who were captured by the 9 snake pirates go in the end? Otherwise, it is hard to imagine what they will do. I haven't. Du Lin looked at Her Majesty the Queen with great interest. Cecilia, when are you going to have a baby? Also, it is impossible for all the children born to be girls, so where did the boys go? I still owe Sanshijong. Looking at it this way, the reproduction of this country is still quite difficult. The stronger the paternal lineage, the greater the potential of the child born. Is this the truth? That, etc. Hancock was taken away, so I have to pay for an heir, right? Interesting. Her eyes suddenly lit up. She looked at Du Lin. His Majesty the King, who answered subconsciously, was suddenly taken aback. Scary to think about, right? However, there are 2 questions Du Lin did not ask. Chapter 270. Cecilia's ambition. Cecilia's eyes suddenly became sharp. Anyway, sooner or later, you have to have a baby. Anyway, you just want to find a man, so why not find the best man? Find a man who can give birth to the most powerful offspring. She subconsciously licked the corner of her mouth. Du Lin was a little confused by her eyes. Although this woman pretended to be calm just now, it is not difficult to see the panic well concealed in her eyes. The sense of oppression he brought to her was quite enormous. But now this woman's eyes have become a little strange. It was as if she had become the prey and she was the hunter. What's the meaning? Anytime, if you have a baby. The smile on Cecilia's face instantly brightened. It's just that I haven't been able to find a suitable partner. I don't want to have a child with an ordinary disgusting man from 643. Du Lin frowned slightly. The expression on this woman's face gradually became rippling, and she no longer pretended to be serious before. At this time, the eyes of the already beautiful woman were rippling, and her face was also dotted with 2 blushes just right, revealing an extraordinary sense of charm all over her body. Du Lin asked thoughtfully, really? What kind of man does Cecilia want to marry? Of course the best man in the world. Her Majesty looked directly into Du Lin's eyes without any hesitation, and said bluntly, he must have the strongest strength, the most wealth, the greatest power, and the best. The woman smiled embarrassedly and said, and has the most outstanding appearance. This is almost entirely explicit. The corner of Du Lin's mouth couldn't help but twitched. This is really the first time. It feels really amazing. Seeing that Du Lin was still a little unmoved, Cecilia thought that her hint was not in place. So she pursed her lips slightly and said loudly, dear sun god, can you have a baby with me? Rare. Du Lin has almost never had such a time when he has nothing to say. But Cecilia did. But after being speechless at the beginning, Du Lin thought about it for a while, and could understand Cecilia's actions. After all, she was born in the country of daughters. Even though she often went to sea as the captain of the 9 snake pirates, she didn't have much contact with the outside world. I know very little about the outside world, and it is even more lacking in terms of the relationship between men and women. In her philosophy, having a child is a normal thing, and it is a normal event that every citizen of them will experience in their lives. She didn't feel ashamed about it. The reason is only because the request was made suddenly, and I felt a little presumptuous. But when a beautiful woman makes this request to you affectionately, it is really difficult to refuse her. Du Lin thought so. You, what ship are you talking about? Before Du Lin could speak, Enel was furious, how dare you covet the blood of God? Although gods do like beautiful women, they are only for pleasure, and it is by no means the reason why this woman can give blood to gods. Cecilia was quite at a loss. How is it different from the men she brought to 9 snakes before? When those men heard that they were snatched here to impregnate the women on the island, all of them were ecstatic. Even those who can escape don't want to run away. This god should also be happy about this, after all, he is also one of the most beautiful women on the island. Why is this Mr. Knight of God reacting so violently now? Cecilia couldn't understand. Haha, that's interesting. Du Lin laughed and said, do you want to give birth to my bloodline? May I? Cecilia's eyes were full of expectation. The child born with this god will definitely be a gifted person unprecedented in Ju Snake Island for hundreds of years, and will definitely be able to lead this country to an unprecedented peak. Even, if the god is willing, he can call all the beautiful women on the island and ask him to help give birth to more children. If that's the case, Cecilia doesn't even dare to think about what the future 9 Snake Island will look like. Unbeknownst to Du Lin, Cecilia's delusion has entered the second stage. He just finds it funny. Of course, no. Du Lin smiled unabated. He doesn't need kids. It already has eternal life, and it is meaningless to reproduce. Dulin doesn't need any blood. For him, descendants are just unnecessary bonds. God will not allow anyone to share his authority. Simple reason, right? Am I a little too presumptuous? Cecilia's cheeks became more rosy, but immediately she said something more presumptuous. If you think I'm not suitable, then respectable God of the Sun, are you willing to change? Flat. As long as you want. No matter who you are on Nine Snake Island, there is no problem with the number. You can have as many as you want. Simply terrible. Even the well-informed Dulin was surprised by Cecilia, who said such words with a flat face at this time. Even the bustards in ancient brothels didn't do this, did they? This is the real daughter country. Men are used as reproductive tools. Ridiculous. Enel's already angry earlobes began to flutter, and the electric light on his body continued to bounce. What do you think of a god? Do you want to meet God's punishment? Just based on what this woman said, even destroying this island is not an exaggeration. What? Cecilia didn't understand the current situation at all. How can you be so angry? Don't worry too much, Enel, it's just because different islands have different cultures. For them, 3.2, this is just a common thing. Of course Dulin won't be angry because of this, or rather, a man wouldn't be angry because of this, right? Dulin never felt that he was so extraordinary, of course he would not secretly be happy in his heart but say that he was insulted. Yes, Enel sat back down again. It's very kind of you to understand. Cecilia breathed a sigh of relief. I thought it really d them off. But it's not impossible to give you a chance to serve me. Dulin said leisurely, Cecilia, are you Nine Snakes willing to surrender to me? Of course, it does not mean to make your country a country of service. Surrender. Cecilia blinked. Chapter 271 Nine Snakes Submit. The woman's expression finally became serious again. Surrender. Dear God of the Sun, do you want us Nine Snakes to be your subordinates? The rippling expression on Cecilia's face has completely disappeared, replaced by a full of solemnity and seriousness. Even His Majesty the King, who just kept saying that he wanted to find a group of people to serve Dulin, couldn't keep calm at this moment. After all, the matter concerns the country itself. Sorry, although you saved Hancock and are our benefactor of Nine Snake Island, we cannot agree to such a request. Because she has very little contact with the outside world, Cecilia naturally lacks experience in dealing with people. But she will never be ambiguous when it comes to matters related to her family and country. After all, she has been the emperor of Nine Snakes for many years. This country is a beloved thing for all of us, a precious treasure that we have guarded for generations. Please forgive us for not entrusting it to others like this. These 06 remarks can be said to be justified and well-founded. It's hard to imagine that the words were spoken by the woman who said in the middle of her voice just now that she was going to give birth to Dulin. Dulin looked at Cecilia's serious look, and said with great interest, but it seems that only by becoming part of my subordinates can we better protect this country. Cecilia froze for a moment, and then her face suddenly became ugly. Her hands were even pressed on the small table in front of her, and blood vessels could be faintly seen floating slightly on the back of her slender hands. Dear God of the Sun, do you want to use force to conquer our country? If that's the case, it's really the worst situation, and this country is really about to usher in a catastrophe. If you are an enemy of this group of people, then you and your compatriots will never have any history of resistance. Cecilia is very self-aware. However, Dulin shook his head slightly. This made the big stone in Cecilia's heart be put down instantly, and the originally tense spirit was also relaxed. She suddenly wanted to cry. Is this what powerlessness feels like? If you want to protect the country you cherish, you can only rely on the tolerance of the other party. There should be nothing more uncomfortable than this in the world, right? But, Cecilia, before Her Majesty regained her composure, Dulin's voice sounded again, choices must be made. Everyone knows about our battle with the world government, and this war will eventually have a result. Her Majesty's face changed slightly. When the outcome is decided, the whole world will reshuffle the cards. Dulin looked at her. At that time, you have to make a choice, don't you? And wait until then to make a choice, and I'm afraid it will be different from now. This World Revolutionary Army should not have any improvement. After all, with its own light, it will expand, and a large number of low-level people will be won over. They have no soil for survival and development at all. The final war in this world will only be fought between himself and I am. Cecilia's eyes began to be a little dazed. As the captain of the Nine Snake Pirates, she is already a big pirate in this sea. She is quite clear about the situation in this world. In the current world, the pattern of confrontation between the world government and the Illuminati has become very obvious. There is no doubt that whoever wins the final battle will clean up the world as it is now. The world government will never allow the remnants of the Illuminati in the world they own, and the sun god must expand his brilliance to every corner of the world. But Hydra is located on the Calm Belt, so it's hard for outsiders to set foot on it. Cecilia spoke subconsciously. Calm Belt. Dulin smiled softly. Does this kind of thing mean anything to us? Even if it is a world government, it is not difficult to cross. Just add seastone to the bottom of the big ship, then the ship will emit the waves of the ocean, and the sea kings will ignore their existence. Cecilia's eyes widened. As this, really? Calm Belt has been the natural danger of Nine Snake Island since ancient times, and it is a natural barrier to protect the island. But the key to Calm Belt's insurmountability is not that there is no sea breeze in this sea area, and the only way to sail is by rowing. Boating is an easy thing, not to mention that most of the guys who dare to go to sea in this world have two brushes. In the calm belt, it is the sea kings that really frighten the people on the sea, and here is the lair of the sea kings. No one knows when a ferocious monster will emerge from the calm sea. But if the threat of the sea kings is overcome, Hydra Island is in danger. I have no reason to lie to you. If you don't believe me, I can verify it for you at any time. Du Lin replied like this. Of course he will never lack sea stones, after all Wano Kuni is under his control right now, and that country is the world's largest sea stone producer. Cecilia was a little dazed. Gods occasionally show favoritism. The beauty's cheeks are smooth and delicate, just like the finest suet jade. What should we do? Cecilia looked up in astonishment. Dear sun god, what do you mean? Du Lin smiled and said, it's not a big deal that both priests and sun knights choose you 9 Snake Island natives. So, Cecilia, let me ask you, are you willing to be the priest of Hydra Island? Great. If this is the case, then I accept this condition. Although there is an extra boss, it doesn't seem so unacceptable. Moreover, it might be possible to have a good relationship with this sun god, and finally marry him and give birth to a powerful child. Anyway, as long as the fire is planted, the priests and sun knights of any country will be the same after all, and they will be equally loyal to the great sun god. In this case, since they can get the protection of the Illuminati and the god of the sun, there will be no change in Ju Snake Island. After all, if he chooses to refuse, who knows if this god will turn his face. Cecilia's eyes lit up, and she was already thinking about it in her heart. Du Lin raised his hand and gently stroked Cecilia's smooth face. Hancock will be my knight of the gods, and of course I will not treat her hometown badly. 937. Cecilia licked her lips and finally nodded seriously. Chapter 272 Cecilia Perseverance. Cecilia finally made a decision. Of course, this decision did not exceed Du Lin's expectations. After all, there are indeed fewer and fewer people in this world who dare to say no to him. There is even no need to deliberately intimidate and lure, his existence itself is already the most terrifying threat to others. But Du Lin was certainly not happy with Cecilia's decision. After all, no matter how you say this country is a country of daughters, which man can say no to the country of daughters? Du Lin gave Cecilia the fire on the spot. Since she is going to be the chief priest of 9 Snake Island, of course what is bestowed on her is the flame of healing. Du Lin also asked Cecilia to choose some people to become priests and sun knights with her. Fortunately, the sun knight is probably the cadres of the 9 snake pirates. Of course, they are the strongest on the island. No one is more qualified than them to get the fire of destruction. The priests are going to be in trouble. After all, the priests are responsible for missionary work. Even though the 9 Snakes Island is small, there are all acquaintances on the island, so it will not be too difficult to preach. However, if you don't have a certain ability, it will be very troublesome to let people understand the teachings. After all, with the continuous modification of Mahad, the teachings of the Illuminati have become more and more complicated. At least someone with a certain amount of knowledge is qualified. Such a person is quite difficult to find on 9 Snake Island. After all, this is an island that is proud to join the 9 Snake Pirates. Rather than reading and studying, the residents of this island prefer to practice swordsmanship and hockey, of course. But anyway, I found a few people out. After the fire was planted for these reserve priests and sun knights, the flag of the Illuminati was also hung above the island of Hydra. Even if this country has officially joined Du Lin's command. But for the reserve priests and sun knights on this island, of course it is not over yet, and they will go to the island of gods to receive training next. Fortunately for the sun knights, all they need to learn is the manipulation of flames, and those who perform well will be rewarded with a man-made devil fruit. The training that the priests have to receive is much more troublesome. Missionary skills and teachings alone are enough for them to learn. Not to mention that after being perfected with the help of the doctors of the magnetic drum kingdom, the techniques of using the healing flame mastered by the priests have also made great progress. Although the effect has improved, but as a price, of course it is more troublesome to learn. It should take a while. It is worth mentioning that when Du Lin bestowed flames on these reserve knights and priests, Hancock suddenly asked Du Lin to make her 2 younger sisters also become priests. If this is the case, the 2 younger sisters will also go to the island of gods to receive training, and she will be able to stay with the 2 younger sisters for a while longer. Du Lin didn't refuse, and it wasn't an embarrassment. In this way, after a banquet, the ownership of the entire country has changed. After the banquet, Du Lin didn't leave in a hurry, because Cecilia kindly invited them to stay. Although 9 Snake Island is not big, it still has some beautiful wind villages. Du Lin estimated that she should have another purpose. So I accepted her invitation. But there is one thing to say, the most unique scenery is the huge statue, which is really not good looking. On the contrary, when walking on the streets of this country, Du Lin feels that he has become a spectacle for the people of this country to watch. Everyone is amazed at them. It's no wonder that the people of this country, except for the aunts and mothers-in-law who have given birth, have never seen a man. For them, men like Du Lin and Enel are alien creatures, and it is natural to be curious. Enel was almost provoked by them several times, and almost used thunder to disperse them. He himself doesn't care, but no one is allowed to tarnish the majesty of God. After wandering around the 9 Snakes Island for an afternoon, there was another grand banquet in the palace at night. Cecilia prepared a sumptuous meal to entertain her future superiors and colleagues. At least Du Lin is quite satisfied. Even after dinner, Cecilia gathered some beauties from Hydra to give Du Lin a wonderful song and dance performance. There is never a shortage of dancers among the beauties who use snakes as their totems. Du Lin felt that Cecilia was a little too deliberately. After all, these singing and dancing women seemed to be a little too beautiful. After the party, everyone, we have prepared your own rooms for you. Cecilia said with a smile, please follow the maids and have a good rest. As for you, God, I will take you to your room myself. I'm going to rest with God. Before Du Lin could speak, Shishala had already opened her mouth as a matter of course. After all, I didn't bring a few maids with me on this trip. Angie, Nica, Tianyushi, Orvia and the others didn't come with me, so of course it was Kisara who served the bed. Du Lin raised his hand and rubbed the white dragon girl's head. Tonight, let's go to bed by myself for the time being. Shisara looked very unhappy, but since this was God's decision, of course she could only obey and follow the maid to her own room. Let's go. Du Lin looked at Cecilia. The woman's face is obviously jumping for joy, her face is a little flushed, and it looks even brighter and moving under the dim light. Please follow me. Du Lin followed behind her, seeing that her steps were very brisk. Nuo Lajao, the architectural style of Ju Snake Island is similar to that of Wanokuni, and the palace is constructed with wooden floors and paper doors. Her Majesty brought Du Lin to the front of a big wooden door, opened the door, this is here, please come in, my god. Du Lin walked in. It's not very luxurious, but it's quite spacious, and the most conspicuous thing is of course the big bed in the middle. It was neatly tidied up, and the quilts were all blue. Well, the colors and styles are very familiar. Du Lin turned around and saw Her Majesty the Queen, who was covered in blue, had closed the door. Cecilia turned around with a slightly excited smile on her face. Her hands were already on the buttons of the Chongsam's collar, her slender legs moved quickly, and she almost rushed towards Du Lin. Come on, God, I can't wait. The corner of Du Lin's mouth twitched. Is this the other way around? Chapter 272 Return to the Island of Gods. Ah, in this way, I can conceive your child, right? Cecilia lay on the bed contentedly, a faint blush still remained on her face for unknown reasons. Du Lin sat cross-legged beside her, looking down at the woman whose clothes were still intact. He raised his hand and gently stroked his lips, which still left a cold and soft touch. Who told you you could get pregnant by kissing? He was ready to go with the crowd, but he didn't expect this woman to catch him by surprise. Almost frantically, Du Lin rushed forward, just when Du Lin thought she had some tricks to do, but she turned over and lay on the side contentedly after kissing her. Is that what everyone says? Her Majesty the Queen blinked her beautiful big eyes, it has been like this since ancient times, as long as you kiss a man, you can conceive a child. Understood. Since ancient times, the women who have given birth to children on this island have fooled these pure girls in this way. Probably to prevent these girls from being too interested in men from the outside world. It should be that only when they want to have children, the women who are seniors will teach them their experience and tell them to tell the girls who come later. After all, this country is too small. If there is a long-term loss of personnel, it will lead to the destruction of the country. It's really stupid. Du Lin shook his head helplessly, and then pulled the woman next to him over. Let God teach you. Next, there are health and physical education courses. Original, that's how it is. Cecilia lay on the bed panting, her eyes closed, with a contented look. It turned out that my thinking was too superficial. This world is really amazing. Where is the magic? Du Lin, who was lying beside her, couldn't help but rolled his eyes. Once again, this woman has done things that many people can't imagine. She always gives the impression of being completely out of the situation. Even just now, I have been repeatedly lamenting that there are such miraculous things in the world. Even a god who has already seen a lot, it is hard not to feel speechless about it. Her Majesty stood up with some difficulty, and looked at Du Lin expectantly. God, will I be able to get my wish in this way? Unfortunately, Du Lin just shook his head, I don't need any heirs. It is really easy to control this. The power of domination can also come in handy at this time. Agby. Cecilia was extremely disappointed. God, are you dissatisfied with me? It's okay. She struggled to sit up, and looked back at the closed door of the room. Come in. The door of the room was opened, and one after another tall or plump or petite or skinny figures walked in. Without exception, they were all quite beautiful. Du Lin has seen all these sisters. It was the women who presented songs and dances at the banquet just now. The most beautiful barren girls on the island are here. Cecilia turned her head and looked at Du Lin proudly. Du Lin saw courage, fearlessness, and provocation in her eyes. God, please just choose the girl you think is suitable. Du Lin sighed softly. Well, let's follow the example of the sage Zeus today and be the male bodhisattva who gives in the body. Well, the problem of reproduction on Nine Snake Island really needs to be solved. They can't keep letting them kidnap overseas men to prosper. And from now on, this island will be the back garden of the gods, and it is enough for a man who can set foot on this island to have a god. It should be possible to solve this through technology. Isn't Judge the best at making artificial humans? Vegapunk's bloodline factor attainments are unmatched in the world. The combination of the two of them should be enough to come up with the technology for women to give birth. Du Lin decided to use technology to create a mother-child river for this island and this daughter country. When Du Lin was about to return to the island of the gods, it was already the morning of the third day. King Cecilia is extremely obsessed with wanting to give birth to a child with God, even with the girls she summoned. They showed amazing fighting spirit in this long battle, constantly defeated, but kept rising. Du Lin couldn't help being moved. he finally decided to bring the girls back to the island of the gods and let them become members of the maid group. Cecilia, of course, cheered. After hoisting the banner of enlightenment, Cecilia has become more persistent in bringing down the child of God. After all, if that is the case, Nine Snake Island is the mother clan of the Son of God. Belonging is a step up to the sky. Then, it was time to go back. Dulin let Cecilia board the solar ship with all the people who were going to the island of gods. Are you going to fly to the island of gods next? There was some expectation in Cecilia's eyes. What would it be like to live in a place where God lived? No, go straight back. Dulin said so. Go straight back. Cecilia was a little dazed. What do you mean, go back directly? But in the next second, she knew what it meant. The scene in front of him changed instantly. The familiar Nine Snakes Island had gone to nowhere in the blink of an eye. But what appeared in front of him at this time was a wide square and a solemn palace that looked extremely sacred. Quote exclamation mark quote. Not only Cecilia, but even Hancock couldn't help exclaiming at this time. What the hell is going on here? Why did you run to another place in the blink of an eye? Arrive, Dulin said leisurely. Below the big ship, the knights of the gods and the maids have gathered, ready to welcome the return of the gods. Well, this is the arrangement. This is his duty. Then there is, and she. Clear. Dulin looked down at him. Here are some priests who just arrived, and I will leave them to you. Mahad nodded slightly. Yes, God, I am. Yes, I see. Mahad. He has been the chief instructor of the Sun Knights since a long time ago. At the beginning, he was only responsible for teaching the knights hockey, and later he simply took care of it all. The beautiful lady maid bowed slightly, because it is the bounden duty of a maid to remove his troubles. Except for the first batch of priests before he was summoned, almost all priests were trained by him. Voyage. Just as Dulin opened his mouth, the next second, a man wrapped in a lotus body in a black robe appeared under the big boat. Dulin looked at another man who came to greet him. There are still a few new Sun Knights for you. Dulin looked at his chief maid again. There are still some new maids on board, and I will let you guide them. Voyage also nodded with a smile. Chapter 274 Hancock and Yamato. As a Sun Knight, the power you must master is fire. On a certain floor of the giant vine, where the Sun Knights were trained, Voyage was talking with his right hand raised. A group of golden flames emerged from his hands, and they were constantly jumping. The fire held by the Sun Knights is the power of destruction, and it can be used directly in battle, just like this. Voyage flicked his hand casually, and the flame in his hand flew out, landed on the cloudy ground in the distance, and then exploded. Yun Duo was directly blown out of a huge hole. The flames that came out of the sword brought a violent wind, only blowing Cecilia's hair flying. It's amazing. Majesty the king of the Daughter Kingdom, Jhin, couldn't help but marvel, it's as powerful as devil fruit. Of course she knows the man in front of her, he is one of the knights who protect the gods. The man known as the masochist in the sea, Yu or Ki. Even though she has never met before, Cecilia also knows that this man's strength is absolutely extraordinary. Or it should be said that none of the knights of the gods under the command of the gods is simple in strength, and each one is a monster among monsters. This is just the most basic method of use. The flame bestowed on us by God has an entity, which means it can be used as a tool. Flames burst out of Voyage's hands again, and at the same time, he was constantly changing his shape. Turned into a sword, turned into a gun, turned into a knife, turned into a hammer, and finally a pair of wings condensed on his back. The wings fluttered lightly, causing him to fly from the ground. That's the most common usage. Oh. The female fighters from the Nine Snake Pirates cheered at this time. This is the power of flight mastered by the Sun Knights. It's amazing that now they can use it too. Bravo. Standing out the most among the crowd, the little Hancock touched his two small fists, with stars radiating from his eyes. Just before that, she was also bestowed with flames by Dulin. Just plain tinder of course. Doflamingo has only recently been bestowed with the superior fire, which has not been conceived so soon. And the current Hancock doesn't need high-level sparks at all, she is still too young, and it is too difficult to awaken her own power. Now ordinary tinder is enough. While the Sun Knights were teaching, the new priests were also teaching. The place where they teach is in the temple. The healing flame is a power that every priest must master. The god-tier officer of the Illuminati is teaching the new priests. This kind of flame can cure almost all diseases and injuries. The first thing you need to learn is various targeted methods of using flames to deal with different situations, so as to achieve twice the result with half the effort. Hancock's two younger sisters, Sandersonia and Marigold, were mixed in the crowd, their faces still slightly timid. But when they thought that their sister was also on this island, they were not so worried. Compared with the courses of the Sun Knights and the priests, the courses of the ladies who were selected as maids are much simpler. They just need to follow Angia to learn the handling of various chores and the skills of serving God. If you want to satisfy God, you must remember all of God's habits and preferences. Angie is always the most gentle in front of Dulin, and always responds naturally to all God's needs. But at this time she seemed quite serious. What we serve is the greatest God, we must do our best to satisfy any of his needs, and we must never let him have any displeasure. In any aspect, I don't ask you to cover everything, but at least, you must have a skill. The new maids nodded repeatedly. As long as you can please God, then you have a chance to conceive his child, right? Then, we will work hard. After finishing their respective courses, Hancock and his two sisters decided to have a good time on the island. Oh, it's amazing. It's a sea of clouds. Hancock stood on the edge of the temple, with his hands on the awning, looking at the endless sea of white clouds beyond the island of gods. Like all people who came here for the first time, Hancock was deeply shocked by the sights of the island. Are we in heaven now? The youngest of the three sisters, Marigold, was a little scared. Isn't it death to go to heaven? 0. Ask for flowers. Is it in the sky? The second child, Sandersonia, guessed, the country above the clouds. Ha ha. Suddenly, the three sisters heard a voice coming from one side. Hancock turned his head and saw a white-haired little girl waving a knife in the corner of the square. Every time she swings the knife, there will be waves in the air, as if there are sharp wind blades forming. It's just that every time the wind pushed out from the blade quickly dissipated. Already very close to Yamato. Sitting next to the white-haired girl was a sleepy woman. She looked very weak, but her face was very happy. You are very close to the realm of listening to the voice of all things. When you reach that level, you can easily cut through steel, and you can even unleash flying slashes. The little white-haired girl nodded vigorously. I will work hard, Master Gion. Are you also knights under the command of God? A curious voice came from the side. The white-haired girl, Kaido's daughter Yamato, turned around and saw the three Hancock sisters with curious faces. I'm Hancock. Hancock smiled and said, it's the new Sun Knight, please give me more advice in the future. I have to say that the character of this Hancock is quite different from that of the original pirate. The pirate empress in the original work is arrogant and self-willed, but this Hancock who has not gone through any hardships is much more lively and cheerful. Of course, she is really not a good child. I'm not that guy's knight. Yamato snorted, sooner or later I will fix that guy severely. Although the promise was just to take over that man's move, Yamato can't forget the shame. She has already decided that after completing the agreement, she will repair that guy properly. What? Hancock raised his brows in an instant. Do you actually want to be an enemy of God? Lady Cecilia told her when she came here. Let her grow up quickly, and then work hard to give birth to a child of God. This white-haired monster actually wanted to hurt the father of his future child. Hancock couldn't take it anymore. UB********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* 5 Yamato vs. Hancock. Hancock is furious. Although she has been planted by Du Lin, she may not be so loyal at this time. It's just that Cecilia instilled a lot of inexplicable thoughts in her, saying that they must give birth to a child with God on Nine Snake Island. Hancock has made this one of her goals in life. So now, the guy in front of her who wants to be an enemy of God is of course her enemy. The corner of Yamato's mouth twitched, and he carefully looked at the girl in front of him. It looks like she is 2 or 3 years older than her, but she used to be quite good looking, with black hair, greasy face, and exquisite facial features. Yamato belongs to the type whose emotional intelligence develops quite slowly, but even so, it is difficult for her to deny the beauty of the girl in front of her. But it doesn't matter if it's beautiful or not. Yamato looked sideways at 810, Hancock with his sword in his hand. Who are you? Are there any Sun Knights your age? My name is Hancock. Hancock pinched his waist with both hands, and introduced himself loudly. He is the new Sun Knight. He is also the one who will give birth to the child of God. Child. Yamato tilted his head. Yamato's teacher, the former Marine Rear Admiral Gion, could only sit weakly on the ground because of the seastone shackles. After hearing Hancock's self-introduction, she couldn't help showing a look of disgust. How disgusting is that guy who claims to be a god? The girl in front of her looks like she is only 12 or 13 years old, and she is only 2 or 3 years older than Yamato. But this is also in line with her usual imagination of the sun god. A collection of all the bad behaviors of human beings. Du Lin didn't know that, when he was completely unaware, he had already taken a scapegoat. Gion has no intention of correcting Du Lin's prejudice at all. But Yamato didn't care much about the matter. Whether children are children or not, she doesn't care about such things at all. HMPH, anyway, that guy is very annoying. He took me here by force and didn't allow me to leave. I will never forgive him. Yamato announced loudly, sooner or later, I will fix him severely. UB******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* smiled. In the next moment, Hancock had already turned into a black shadow and ejected, which could barely be regarded as a merciless flying kick with his slender right leg. If you want to find a fight, then I will help you. Yamato didn't take kindly to Hancock either. She's not a gentle girl like Sister Robin, and of course Yamato won't be used to such a guy who makes a bad face when she comes up. Clenching the long sword in his hand, he mercilessly slashed horizontally. Elder sister. The two younger sisters who followed Hancock suddenly panicked. My sister hasn't awakened Haki yet. Of course, it will be very disadvantageous to face opponents who use swords when they can't use Haki. However, their worries are obviously unnecessary. A golden flame burst out from Hancock's slender calf instantly, wrapping her legs. With a crisp sound, the two little girls stepped back at the same time. What an exaggerated power. Hancock looked at Yamato in shock. This white-haired monster is obviously 2 or 3 years younger than her, so why is it even slightly stronger than her? What a nasty flame. Yamato was annoyed at the flames on Hancock's legs blocking her blade. Gion, who was watching the battle, was also a little surprised. The strength of this girl is also extraordinary. She knows Yamato's talent better than anyone else. This girl is Kaido's daughter, born to inherit Kaido's horror talent. Strength, agility, stamina, all of Yamato's qualities are the top among his peers, or it should be said that even a child who is a few years older will never have Yamato's strength. But this little dark-haired girl was able to fight Yamato evenly. Not just purely physically, but technically, this girl is also extraordinary. Certainly extraordinary. Hancock was considered by Cecilia to be the future heir of the Nine-Snake pirate ship at such a young age, and he practiced with him from a very young age. In terms of skills and moves, she is by no means inferior to Yamato, and even stronger. Continue. Hancock snorted coldly, his body had already been pushed in again. At this moment, her slender legs seemed to have turned into two spirit snakes, shooting out from the shadows, trying to tear Yamato into pieces. Yamato's reaction was not slow at all, he swung the long sword in his hand, and directly blocked all Hancock's attacks. The two of them clinked together like this. From one side of the square to the other, and then back again. The more you hit Hancock's heart, the more astonished you will be. This white-haired monster is amazing. If it wasn't for the flame bestowed by the gods, it would be absolutely impossible for me to fight her to this point. But Hancock isn't fazed by it. I have the power bestowed by God, which is obviously something I should be proud of. Let's use the power of God to decide the winner. The flames on Hancock's back grew wildly, and in the next second it turned into a pair of wings, which took her into the sky in the blink of an eye. Yamato, who can't fly at all, looked at Hancock, who flew into the air, and shouted dissatisfiedly, "Hey! You are so despicable, come down. Take me up, idiot." Not only did Hancock not have any shame, but he felt very comfortable seeing Yamato jumping anxiously. The black-haired girl raised her hands, and a ball of flames condensed on each of her hands. Yamato's eyes became serious in an instant. But it is this time. After all, Hancock has just received the flame bestowed by God, and he is still young, and his physical strength is far less than 4.0 to exert the true power of the flame, so the power of the explosion is not strong. But in fact, it also made Yamato's complexion change. Yamato. But there's nothing you can do with Hancock. Her eyes suddenly lit up. Of course, the oncoming flames fell down again. In the next second, two groups of flames fell from the sky. Yamato was almost bombed and fled, unable to fight back at all. She swings the sword. Ha ha ha. Yamato was taken aback for a moment, then looked back abruptly. Gion suddenly said, "Listen carefully, listen to the breath of the flame." Hancock smiled almost wildly, and threw down some piles of flames. Did you see it? White-haired monster, this is the power that God bestows on me. Two small holes were directly blasted out of the solid square ground by the flames. Yamato jumped anxiously. Yamato's legs are strong, and he dodges swiftly. Wow. UB*************D. You're so despicable. Chapter 276. The Trail of the Charlotte Family. Hancock is actually not light consumption. After all, he is still too young, and his physical strength can't keep up with the consumption of this violent output flame. What Du Lin bestowed on her was just a fire seed, and she had to rely on her own physical strength to create a flame. To be honest, to be able to do this after just getting the spark, Hancock's performance has been outstanding. But even so, after she finally threw off a huge flame, she began to breathe slightly. Of course she had a smug smile on her lips. This blow must be able to defeat this white-haired monster. However, something completely unexpected happened. When the ball of fire was about to hit the ground, a trace suddenly appeared inside. Then, the whole group of fire separated along the traces. In the crack of the flame, the white-haired monster soared into the sky. She jumped so high that she almost touched Hancock, who was flying in midair. Ha! Yamato swung his sword vigorously. Even though there was still a not-so-close distance between the two of them, at this moment Hancock inexplicably felt a sense of horror. She flapped her wings subconsciously and flew back. An invisible slash suddenly passed the place where he and she were floating just now, flew into the air, and dissipated not far away. What? Hancock was taken aback. Flying slash. Although Nine Snake Island is closed, they are not behind the version only in terms of combat. Even high-level armed colors are very common in Nine Snake Island, and of course there is nothing mysterious about flying and slashing. So now Hancock is quite astonished. How old is this white-haired monster? Has he already mastered the new iron's renunciation? However, the flying slash that Yamato used was still quite immature, and it dissipated after only flying a distance of 10 or 20 meters. However, she has indeed stepped into the threshold of cutting iron, and she can already be called a swordsman in the sea. And she is only 9 years old this year. If this matter is known to the swordsmen on the sea, I am afraid that they will be scared out of their wits on the spot. Missing a hit, Yamato fell to the ground again unwillingly, and she was also panting violently. In the nick of time, I awakened the secret of cutting iron, cut off the flame that Hancock dropped, and then jumped up and gave Hancock a flying slash. Her consumption is also the same. You guys are not bad at strength. Hancock's expression gradually became serious. HMPH, you too. The smile on Yamato's face gradually became brighter, and she clenched the sword in her hand. Suddenly there was an inexplicable sympathy for each other. But it is at this time. Crack. A black and white thunder appeared between the two in an instant, and then condensed into the appearance of Enel. What are you two doing? Enel frowned, and said in a cold voice, do you want to annoy God by fighting here? Yamato curled his lips in displeasure, but he had already obediently put the blade in its sheath. Hancock saw that Yamato had already started, so of course he had no intention of continuing to fight, so he put away the flame and fell lightly to the ground. It's just because this guy speaks rudely to God, so I want to teach her a lesson. Hancock said so. The way Enel looked at her softened all of a sudden. If it wasn't because it was God's decision, Enel would have killed the master and apprentice Yamato Gion long ago. It is obvious that surviving depends on God's will, but he has always spoken rudely to God. This is not an example. Enel said so. He turned into thunder and disappeared. Hancock then looked at Yamato provocatively again. Next time I will definitely deal with you properly. It's me who wants to clean you up. Yamato is not to be outdone. Isn't that good too? In the temple, Duan Lin propped his chin with his right hand, talking to himself with a smile. Mahad suddenly appeared in the temple. There has been news from the Twin Gorges. That fellow Crocus would rather die than give any news about the last isle. Du Lin nodded slightly. That's to be expected, and it would be hilarious if Roger's chosen crew could easily succumb to force. Even a guy like Buggy the Clown still has a burning fire in his heart. Then send him to reunite with Roger directly. In addition, other members of Roger's pirate group in the sea should not let go, and focus on searching for the red-haired Shanks. 11. There is no doubt that that guy is Roger's true successor. I know. Mahad bowed respectfully. Our men have already started searching all over the world. The Roger pirates are on the one hand, and on the other hand, don't give up on the Whitebeard pirates, the Charlotte family, and Satori Kojima. Yes, time began to pass like this. Du Lin's life has returned to calm again, and the most lively thing in daily life is nothing but Hancock and Yamato fighting again. The two little girls were always at each other's throats, and would fight if they disagreed. But this is not a bad thing. Only in the battle, the strength will get the fastest growth. In the process of fighting with each other, Yamato's swordsmanship has grown rapidly, and Hancock's flame has become more and more proficient. Now 830 has even begun to learn Bahao from Lower Sicilia. Of course Du Lin is happy to see the results. After all, these two are the future knights of the gods that he predestined. The stronger they become, the happier Du Lin will be. Just like that, more than a month has passed. Cecilia and the knights of the Nine-Snake pirate ship God who came to the island of God for training have been sent back by Du Lin. The flame of destruction really doesn't have many skills that need to be learned specially. What is more important is the support of personal strength. They have nothing to learn, so naturally they have to return to their hometown. Before going back, Cecilia specially called Hancock and the new maids from Nine-Snake Island together for a solemn meeting. Although Du Lin didn't know what she said in that meeting, he could probably guess it pretty well. After all, since then, those maids have been a little too enthusiastic. Even Hancock would hang around in front of Du Lin with a smile from time to time. This is probably the so-called heart of Cecilia, and everyone knows it. Then, after more than a month, seek heaven. God. Morgans excitedly came to find Du Lin. There is already news about the Charlotte family. Oh, finally found it. A boring life can be regarded as having some fun again. Chapter 277 The Night of God Attacks. In fact, the traces of the Charlotte family are not too difficult to find. After all, the Big Mom pirate group is one of the three most powerful pirate groups in the New World, and it is also quite large in scale. Even now that Charlotte Linlin felt that she provoked Du Lin and was afraid of being retaliated, she gave up her original nest and started a wandering life on the sea, but it is impossible for such a large organization to operate on the sea without leaving any traces. The simplest thing is that they always have to eat, especially Charlotte Linlin, a woman whose obsession with dessert goes above and beyond. After wandering in the sea for a period of time, they will always land, and of course they will leave traces. What Morgans did was to gather these traces, and then deduce the trajectory of the Charlotte family's voyage, so as to guess where they will appear next. After all, New World is only that big, so this is really not too difficult. Morgans took out a chart and unfolded it. It was a chart of New World, on which a circle had been drawn in advance with a red pen. If there are no accidents, then the Charlotte family will appear in this sea area next. Morgans had a bright smile on his face. There is an island called Kokolo in this sea area, which is rich in all kinds of fruit cakes, and it is the season of fruit ripening. I think Charlotte Linlin should not miss this event dessert feast. Very good. Du Lin nodded slightly. Charlotte Linlin's obsession with desserts is beyond comprehension. For her, conquering a country because of desserts is just a matter of course. After lack of dessert, she will even fall into a state of rampage, disowning her 6 relatives. As long as her desire for desserts cannot be satisfied, even her own children will attack without hesitation. It would be strange that Charlotte Linlin, who had already driven near the island, would miss that dessert feast. Let Bullet pass backquote. Du Lin said so. If the enemy is the Charlotte family, then Bullet alone should not be enough if they want to win a sure victory. But it doesn't matter. After he arrives, he can send support at any time. Yes, New World, Wanokuni, ha 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 ha, is the target the Charlotte family. Bullet laughed loudly after receiving the contact from the island of the gods. Leave it to me. I will let that old woman honestly hand over what the gods want. He got to work right away. Wanokuni is located in the middle and back section of New World, and there is still a considerable distance from the target island. Wanting to get there before the Charlotte family left that island, there was no room for any delay. Fortunately, there is also a weather ship sent by God in Wanokuni. With the help of these large ships that can fly in the sky, it is not difficult to rush to the island quickly. Not to mention that Bullet can also accelerate this big ship with his domination. Bullet used his ability to create super large propellers one by one, and under the rapid rotation, the big ship galloped across the sky at a jaw-dropping speed in an instant. No human time is spent, the destination has been reached. But Bullet was not in a hurry to get down from the sky. What if the Charlotte family discovered his traces and ran away? For delaying the mission of the gods, Bullet felt that he was really to blame for death. He first reported to the gods that he was in place through the sky. Then, several figures immediately appeared on his deck. Hey. Is the target this time the Charlotte family? Moria laughed out loud. Indeed. These old antiques in the sea should have been swept away from this sea long ago. Quote. It doesn't matter anything else, the stone that God wants must be obtained. Thunder splashed from Enel's fingertips. That is to say, after you get the stone, you can make a big fuss, right? Yoroge clenched his fists and laughed loudly. The last time these guys got away with it, we can't give them another chance this time. Ha. I don't care about anything else. Anyway, the old lady Charlotte Linlin will be handed over to me. Bullet announced aloud. Up to you. Enel didn't care. Bullet was the strongest of them all, so of course, he was also the highest decision maker in this operation. It doesn't matter who is the opponent, as long as the mission of God can be completed. Enel's observation hockey has spread along with electromagnetic waves. The entire island below was covered by his knowledge, and as soon as the Charlotte family appeared, he would have an instant insight into the whereabouts of that group of people. He didn't have to wait long. About a day later, a huge fleet suddenly appeared from the sea, and came straight towards the island. The people on the island immediately noticed the sudden change. Then, after seeing clearly the flag hoisted on the fleet through the telescope, the atmosphere of fear has enveloped the entire island in an instant. It's the Charlotte family. The Big Mom pirates are here. Damn it. Invited that dessert-loving monster. Hurry up and prepare all the desserts, they are the only ones who can save us now. It has to be said that Charlotte Linlin's reputation is already well known in this sea, and everyone knows how to deal with her attack. Mommy. At the front of the fleet, it was the largest ship, decorated with strange decorations that would only appear in fairy tales, with a sun-like face on the bow. He was smiling happily at this time. Charlotte Linlin, Chians, stood on the bow deck and laughed. Her mouth secreted a lot of saliva, her scarlet tongue couldn't help licking her mouth. I can already smell it, the sweet taste of happiness. Mom, speed up the boarding for my old lady. Land on this island, and take all the desserts away from my old lady. She can't wait to feast on it. So, the fleet began to accelerate towards the island. But what Charlotte Linlin never imagined was that in the sky of this island, at a height of tens of thousands of meters, there were still people waiting for her visit. Ha, it's such a big fanfare, it's so undisguised. Even Yoroge had sensed their presence. This was completely beyond their expectations. Ha. Then what are you waiting for? Let's attack. Bullet had jumped straight over the side of the boat. Chapter 278 Start the War. The large fleet of the Charlotte family has already docked at the coast of this island. Mommy. Charlotte Linlin floated from the deck into the air on top of a cloud. She laughed loudly and looked down at the group of people who were rapidly approaching the coast. Quickly hand over all the desserts to the old lady. The saliva from the corner of her mouth began to flow down uncontrollably, because she smelled a strong sweet smell. The group of people coming here drove one big car after another, and the car was undoubtedly full of various desserts. Mom, you're quite sensible. Charlotte Linlin grinned. Since these guys are so smart, let the island go after the dessert. As long as the desserts you get from here are not bad. Charlotte Linlin thought so. Finally, I was able to have a good meal today. Since abandoning Wangguo and starting to flee, the quality of life has been getting worse day by day. Even though enough supplies will be replenished at one time every time you land, it is still difficult to eat and drink with an open stomach. Thinking of this, Charlotte Linlin's expression was a little gloomy. 867. After all, it's all because of that guy. If he wasn't afraid of their revenge, how could he abandon his foundation and wander in the sea? The world government is too useless, is it still powerless to deal with those people? Don't they have such terrible weapons in their hands? Charlotte Linlin complained in her heart. Forget it, it's meaningless to think about it now, let's enjoy today's dessert feast first. Charlotte Linlin's saliva dripped onto the ground below, directly corroding the ground with a small hole, and her eyes were fixed on the approaching convoy. But it is this time. Mother, Katakuri, the number 2 member of the Charlotte family on the big boat behind, who was known as the family's highest masterpiece, suddenly exclaimed, above. Charlotte Linlin raised her head in astonishment. Then, she saw that a black shadow in the sky was falling down suddenly like a meteorite. It was a figure. Is that Kaido guy? Charlotte Linlin had such a guess in her heart almost instantly. According to her usual understanding, that guy Kaido really likes to do such a thing, a free fall from a height of 10,000 meters. But, ha, Charlotte Linlin, accompanied by loud laughter, that figure directly smashed into the center of the approaching convoy ahead. The loud explosion and the soaring smoke and dust swallowed everything in an instant. The earth was shaking, and the wind was howling. A clump of pastry even hit Charlotte Linlin in the face. But at this moment, the strongest female pirate in the world didn't even care about anger at all. Charlotte Linlin's eyes widened to the limit, and the eyes were full of outrageous expressions. This voice is. She is not familiar with this voice, but it will definitely not feel strange. Enemy attack. Prepare to fight. Katakuri's shout came from behind. As if to confirm his words, the ground shook even more violently. In the next second, the thick shadow has completely covered the fleet of the Charlotte family. What rose from the smog was a pitch-black behemoth over a kilometer tall. Ha 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 ha, Charlotte Linlin, you don't think that's the end of the Sphinx business, do you? Wild laughter came from inside the giant. It's Douglas Bullet. On the rear deck, Katakuri almost gritted his teeth, damn it. The night of God is coming, this is really not good news. Wandering at sea during this period of time did not encounter any trouble, and thought that this group of people had given up seeking revenge. Was it actually just looking for their whereabouts? AGBG. A-hole. Charlotte Linlin also had an unconcealable panic on her face at this time. It's troublesome, and now it's big trouble. Just a bullet is scary enough, not to mention that the sun god also has the ability to teleport through space. He can get more people here anytime. In the next second, a ray of thunder fell from the sky, landed on the shoulder of the pitch-black giant, and directly condensed into the appearance of Enel. Then on the other shoulder of the giant, in the shadows, Moria's huge figure also appeared, hehehehe. Of course, the last one to appear was Yoroj, who could only flap his wings honestly and fly down. In fact, he also wanted to jump directly from the sky, but this idea has already been used by Bullet. If he imitates it, he will be laughed at and said to follow the trend. The four knights of the gods. Charlotte Linlin's complexion became very ugly, flushed like a pig's liver. There is even no need for the sun god to send more troops over, the four people here are completely enough. Charlotte Linlin, who has experienced the Battle of the Sphinx, is very aware of the strength of these guys in front of her. Bullet's strength is definitely not inferior to hers. The Black Thunder Enel who masters the Black Thunder is absolutely stronger than Katakuri. That is, the stone was not hidden. Amid wild laughter, the giant's fist had already crashed down, crushing towards the Charlotte family like a meteorite. It should be said that he is indeed a big pirate who has come all the way from the Rocks era, and Junlot Linlin never lacks the touch of fierceness in his heart. Charlotte Linlin, not only for revenge, but also for the road sign in his hand. If he handed over that stone, he would really have to miss the position of One Piece. Compared with the other cadres of the Charlotte family, Moria and Yoroj can be said to be a dimensionality reduction blow, and they are not at the same level at all. Enel suddenly said loudly, God said, he wants the historical text of the road sign in your hand, so just hand it over honestly now. So, signpost. It's time for war. Even though she knew that this battle would be difficult to win, she was absolutely unwilling to just let it go. Enel grinned, so, moreover, even if the stone is handed over, this revenge is already inevitable. Charlotte Linlin gritted her teeth secretly. Mom, mother, damn you, who do you think I am? Charlotte Linlin took off the hat on the top of her head, and just flicked it. The hat turned into a big knife. If you want a stone, let the old lady come here. A single Yoroj who can keep getting stronger is enough to crush all the rest of the family, and I am afraid that no one can break through his defense in the end. Chapter 279 Overwhelming. The gigantic exaggeration of the giant's fist. The rock and mud giant created by Bullet using the ability to dominate is more than 1,000 meters tall. Even this is actually only the size of the giant's upper body, and Bullet didn't create the giant's lower limbs at all. The body is already so huge, so of course the head is also exaggerated. The range covered by the fist alone is more than 100 meters. At least it is more than 30 stories high. If this punch really landed, then I'm afraid the entire Charlotte family would be wiped out. Are you kidding me? The cloud that Charlotte Linlin was already riding soared into the sky. Mom. Let me show you what my mother is capable of. She flicked her hand towards the huge fist that slammed down, and translucent spheres flew out from her fingertips. Those spheres merged directly into the giant fist. Then, a cheerful smiley face grew on the fist of the giant created by Bullet. Mommy. Charlotte Linlin is a Paramesha soul fruit capable person. She can take souls and give them souls. When he imbues a soul into a dead object, the object becomes alive and obeys her commands. This is the creation called homies. Mom, mother, my old lady has long said that Nyong's ability is to restrain you. Charlotte Linlin was triumphant. Now, call me back. Yes, Mom. Homies, which was transformed into that fist, responded cheerfully, then turned around abruptly, and the sun fist slammed towards the giant's body. HMPH, what nonsense. Bullet sneered, let lousy dominate. As the purple light spread, that cheerful smiling face suddenly became stiff, and even the lively eyes lost their spirit. Not only the body, Bullet's control, even the soul can also be manipulated. Charlotte Linlin did use her powers to turn Bullet's giant into a homies, but this homies is now being manipulated as well. The fist turned again and slammed down on Charlotte Linlin. What? Charlotte Linlin couldn't believe it. In other words, is this kid's ability actually higher than hers? Emperor Sword. Breaking Blade. Since the ability doesn't work, you can only rely on the big knife in your hand. Charlotte Linlin rode the clouds soaring into the sky, with a long black lightning trailing from the broadsword in her hand, and she slashed vigorously towards the huge fist that landed. Boom. Like a comet hitting the earth. The unprecedented intensity even dispelled the light from the sun in the sky. Everything in this world seems to lose its color because of this. The roaring sound blocked all sounds, and the members of the Charlotte family even felt as if they were deaf. Then the oncoming wind even directly overturned several ships docked on the coast. Katakuri immediately displayed his fruit ability. Although he was not very old, he had already reached the realm of awakening devil fruit ability, immediately assimilated the ground into rice cakes, and then created a towering wall to resist the oncoming windy. Then, in the strong light of the explosion, a figure crashed down, piercing the ground like a meteorite, deep into the depths of the ground. The ground was undulating like foam, and then exploded in the next second, and a huge pothole was formed like this. However, the right arm of the pitch-black giant above was also cut in half, and huge cracks spread all the way, even directly separating the shoulders. Wow! Inside the pitch-black giant, Bullet couldn't help but let out a cry. His fusion fruit ability is a true fusion. If the giant he controls is hurt, part of the damage will be fed back to himself. However, this little injury can only be regarded as insignificant, the healing flame has already wrapped his body. The Knight of God is possessed by both flames. In the blink of an eye, Bullet fully healed from this insignificant injury. Then, in that huge hole, Charlotte Linlin also soared into the sky on a white cloud. Bullet. This woman has a body that is indestructible like a diamond, and such an attack on her body has been weakened too much. This is almost doomed, the battle between the two of them will not be easy to come to fruition. At the same moment, Enel has directly turned into a flash of lightning and appeared on the high wall of rice cakes made by Katakuri. Oops. Katakuri looked up abruptly. This is the divine punishment for blasphemers. Enel pressed down casually. The black and white thunderbolt has crashed and exploded directly in the queue of Charlotte family members. 0. Seeking flowers. Wow. The screams rang out in an instant. A-hole stuff. A frantically spinning trident popped out of Katakuri's right hand, like an electric drill. During the ejection, he had already jumped directly in front of Enel, and the trident directly stabbed at Enel's waist, and he wanted to beat the man in half. Ridiculous. Enel waved his hand, and a thunder spear condensed in his hand. Thunderbolt's spear collided with Katakuri's trident in the next instant. Splashing black and white thunder and black hockey lightning filled Shino. In the next second, Katakuri quickly backed up, and after landing, he staggered for many steps before finally standing still. Very strong hockey. Kotaku felt heartbroken and Shunin couldn't help being horrified. Not even just powerful, this guy's hockey is even above himself. So strong. This guy is really strong. At the same time, a black shadow descended from the sky. Ha 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 ha, but all he got was cheers from Uroge. A man named Cracker manipulated a group of biscuit soldiers to besiege Uroge. Uroge landed like a cannonball in the center of the Charlotte family. Really, can you defeat such a guy? Damn it. Uroge didn't even have the intention of dodging, and while resisting the attacks of the biscuit soldiers, he crushed them all with punches. Ha 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 ha. Awesome. The muscles in his arms stretched out, and his fist slammed to the ground. B*****************. D. Stop it. Shadow giants. Huge shadow soldiers struggled out of the shadow area one after another. They waved their huge fists and launched merciless attacks towards the surrounding enemies. Let's fight. Cracker couldn't go on like this, it would only make the guy stronger. He roared and rushed over, slashing his sword on Uroge's shoulder. His body is gradually expanding. Awesome. Cracker was silent. The earth shattered in an instant, and the terrifying shock wave blasted everything around. Immediately afterwards, a dark shadow spread. Chapter 280 The Knight shows his power. Go to hell. B****************. D. Demon Slash. Accompanied by an almost crazy roar, the third son of the Charlotte family, a man named Charlotte Daifuku, rubbed against his abdomen. His stomach was opened like an oil lamp, and a puff of black smoke came out from it. Heian then turned into an unusually large pitch-black demon, brandishing a big knife and slashing at the monster in front of him. The monster didn't even have any defenses at all, and the big knife directly slashed on the broad back. However, ha 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 ha, what a joy, the monster roared happily. Wrapped in green flames, Uroge gallops through the siege of the Charlotte family. The body size has swelled to the point where it even surpassed the giants. The devil's big knife slashed on his back, not only did not cause any damage, but the devil himself was bounced. 2, 3, out. Charlotte Daifuku's face has become extremely bitter. The all-out attack couldn't even hurt this guy's skin, and couldn't even make him bleed a drop. What kind of monster is this guy? Not only him, but the attacks of other brothers and sisters are also meaningless. The specific manifestation is that when he was under siege at the beginning, this guy's body would continue to swell, but now, his body shape has almost stabilized, and there will be no change. Now everyone in the sea who is a little well-informed knows. Masochist Uroge has the ability to become stronger when he takes damage. And the same size of course means that even all of them combined can't cause him any harm now. Monster. Even Katakuri can't beat this guy at all right now. Dafu thought so sadly in his heart. Enel was floating in the sky, and he also looked at Uroge who was rampant among the crowd with some apprehension. Once Uroge takes enough damage, even he can't beat this guy anymore. Judging from Uroge's current strength, even Yuan Luo Linlin may have difficulty causing him damage. Although this guy's physical strength is somewhat limited in how much he can become stronger, but judging from the current degree of strength, he is already enough to run rampant in this sea. If you want to defeat this guy, you can only defeat him in one go before he has suffered too much damage and has become too strong. But unfortunately, it seems that the Junlot family is completely unable to do such a thing. Enel even felt that he didn't need to shoot at all, Uroge alone was enough to defeat them all. What are you looking around for? Nuo Tuan groaned. When Enel was distracted, Katakuri jumped up. Many translucent circles appeared around his body. As he swung his fist vigorously, in the next second, countless fists of black rice cakes in these translucent circles were crushing towards Enel like a storm. Meaningless. Enel just sneered, and with a wave of his hand, the wall made of black thunder was already lying in front of him. The pitch-black wall glowed with white light, which directly blocked Katakori's punching fist. Thunder also has entities. It turned into thunder and flashed to the higher sky. Enel's eyes flashed coldly, and his right hand was raised high. This is the final blow. 1 billion volts. The thunder of judgment. In the next second above the sky, black and white thunder crashed down. The scale of the thunder is simply huge and exaggerated, and the width alone has several colors. Katakori's pupils constricted, subconsciously stomping on the air, trying to escape. But it is meaningless. The thunder with the power of judgment is bound to hit. Katakori's speed was indeed very fast, but thunder was even faster. He just made a slight turn and directly surrounded him. Wow, even a tough man like Katakori couldn't help screaming at this moment. The judgment marked for violating the will of the gods caused the thunder to explode with several times its power at this moment. This blow has even completely surpassed the all-out attack of the pirate emperors. This is simply not what Katakori can bear. After the thunder light dissipated, Katakuri's huge voice crashed down. He was almost charred. Brother Katakori, Charlotte Brie, a woman who looked like a dead branch, screamed. However, before she could pounce in the direction of Katakori, the black shadow had already covered the ground. A claw stretched out from the shadow, grabbed her ankle, and dragged her into the shadow. Wow! Screams erupted instantly. Hey hee 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 hee. It seems that it should be over. Come and play with me. Moria's size has even swelled to an even more exaggerated level than Yoroge. Although the defensive power and recovery ability are not comparable, the destructive power is not much less. He chattered and smiled strangely as he waved the huge blade made of shadows. Every time the blade hit the ground, it was a landslide and ground crack. A large number of unlucky people who were bound by the shadow and had no time to escape were directly blasted to a height of 100 meters. Stop UB ************ D. The eldest son of the Charlotte family, Perospero roared. He came on the wave of candy, trying to drown Moria directly. But, hey hee 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 hee. Waves. This is the real wave. In the black shadow area, endless shadows surged up, and finally turned into a huge wave that swallowed the sky, and in Perospero's horrified eyes, he was directly engulfed in it. Ha 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 ha. Looks like the winner has already been decided. Only she is left. This battle ended with the overwhelming advantage of the three Knights of God. As for Cracker, who manipulated the biscuit soldiers to besiege him before, he has already been punched unconscious by him. The three looked up. The remaining members of the Charlotte family didn't have any room to dodge at all, and with the automatic guidance of thunder such as judgment, it bombarded them directly in an instant. Accompanied by a series of screams and pain, no member of the Charlotte family could stand up anymore. With just a squeeze of the hand, the guy was already screaming and passed out. Next, there is only. After all, that guy really hasn't been beaten much, and he is very afraid of pain. Then he faced the fiery fist of Owen, the fourth son of the Charlotte family, and sent the guy flying out of the battlefield with one punch. Charlotte Linlin is sitting on a cloud, battling Bullet's colossal giant. Looking at the last Charlotte. Then, the thunder of judgment fell like a torrential rain. 4.2 Up to now, almost all the famous cadres of the Charlotte family have fallen. Enel was floating in the sky, his hands were open, judgment. Yoroge was laughing wildly at him, punching the Majin in front of him to pieces, and then grabbed Tianfu who had no time to dodge. Let's wrap it up at the end. Chapter 281 Big Mom Pirates Destroyed. Damn it, Charlotte Linlin is neither blind nor deaf. Of course, she saw the plight of her children and heard the cries of her subordinates during the battle. Even though she had predicted it from the beginning, the odds of winning might not be too high, but she never expected that the gap would be so huge. Has it been half an hour since the battle started? How could the whole army be wiped out like this? Even those three guys are pretty much unscathed. What are you kidding? How could such a thing happen? How could the power gap be so huge? Cold sweat was already breaking out on Charlotte Linlin's forehead. She couldn't even defeat Bullet, plus the three god knights who were almost in full condition. This battle has no chance of winning at all. She looked down and saw her sons and daughters who had been completely defeated and fell to the ground. None of them could move, their faces became a little cloudy and uncertain. Zeus. Suddenly, Charlotte Linlin yelled. Zeus is the name of the white cloud under her buttocks. Fly. Fly to the sky. Fly to the distance. Use your fastest speed. She wanted to run away. Of course it's embarrassing. Among the four Knights of God, Bullet, the biggest one, was once Roger's crew member, but she was a great pirate of Roger's generation. Moreover, he still had to abandon all his children and subordinates and flee in embarrassment. There has never been a more humiliating moment in Charlotte Linlin's life. So much so that the fat on her face was twitching, her chest rose and fell continuously, and her lungs seemed to be squeezed by the air. What a shame. How could I do such an ugly thing? Charlotte Linlin's mind went blank. Now she even doubted whether it was her who made the decision a few seconds ago. But the words spoken are like water poured out, which can no longer be taken back. Yes, Mom. Thundercloud Zeus didn't know his mother's entanglement, he just responded loudly to Charlotte Linlin's order, and in the next second, he soared into the sky and flew towards the edge of the sky. Damn it, Charlotte Linlin, where do you want to go? Naturally, Charlotte Linlin's actions completely angered Bullet. This guy is an unmistakable fighter and was in the throes of a fight with Charlotte Linlin, but now her desired foe is on the run. How could Bullet, who was playing happily, tolerate such a thing? Give lousy control. The purple-black substance instantly spread into the sky. At this moment, even the sky has been dominated by Bullet. There is a strong wind in the sky. A huge tornado like a long dragon directly pursued Gunlot Linlin, who was trying to escape. Weo. However, Charlotte Linlin turned around, roaring angrily and swinging her sword vigorously. I don't know why she was angry, but in short, the huge slash like a beam of light instantly pierced through the gust of wind that came from the attack. Damn it. Give lousy back. Bullet, who failed to stop him, raised his arms even more angrily, and a large amount of black matter was fired out of the huge black giant's palms like cannonballs. The speed of these shells was so fast that it even pulled out a black light in the air like a laser. However, these attacks were finally resolved one by Charlotte Linlin wielding a big knife. However, Leian Zeus flies very fast, but there is a guy who is faster than her. During the flash of thunder, Enel had already blocked Charlotte Linlin directly. Don't even think about going anywhere. Enel's right hand has turned into lightning, and then he swung it vigorously, and a thunder dragon with teeth and claws roared out. Dragon of Judgment. Go away, old lady. Weo. Charlotte Linlin didn't care about it at this time, and roared and swung a huge slash again. But unfortunately, the thunder with the power of judgment cannot be avoided or destroyed. The thunder dragon hovered over this slash like a beam of light. In the next second, Charlotte Linlin was devoured by opening her mouth wide. Wow. Even with Charlotte Linlin's indestructible body, after enduring the lightning strike from Enel, which almost surpassed the full blow of the Pirate Emperor, she was also directly blasted back. His hair stood up straight from the electric shock, and finally a puff of black smoke spewed out. Good. Well done, Enel. Bullet laughed loudly. Finally destroy the cannon. The power of domination is condensed on the giant's right arm, controlling every inch of this huge arm to exert force towards the same place. So this turned into the strongest punch. The air was shattered, almost tearing the sky apart, and he punched Charlotte Linlin, who flew upside down. Charlotte Linlin's size was considered huge, but at this moment, she was no different from a mouse in front of the black giant's fist. Even the sound she made when she was hit was very slight, but she had indeed turned into a shooting star and flew towards the sky. Come back. Bullet laughed, and the purple-black substance was connected to the body of Charlotte Linlin, who was sent flying. The ability to dominate was activated again, and Charlotte Linlin's body was dragged back. Wow. It should be said that it is Charlotte Linlin who is indestructible. Having suffered two such terrifying blows without any defense in a row, this guy's face was already as pale as paper, and he was even spitting out blood from his mouth. However, she is still only seriously injured. Still haven't lost the fighting power. However, there is still nothing to worry about in this battle. Without the support of the clouds, Charlotte Linlin 740 could only fall to the ground weakly. It's still the same sentence: if you want a stone, let the horse come over. Mommy. Ha 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 ha. Then, the battle continues. The Big Mom pirates are destroyed. Charlotte Linlin understood that she had nowhere to escape. On this day, New World Kokolo Island. There will be no more twists and turns in this battle, and the result is already doomed. When she managed to get up from the big hole she made, Enel was floating in the sky, surrounded by the huge Erogen Moria from left to right, and the black giant controlled by bullet-sprinkled huge shadows covered her. Enel looked down at Charlotte Linlin, who was once one of the strongest pirates in the New World, but now she is the most embarrassing homeless dog. Come on, Charlotte Linlin. The fight continues. Charlotte Linlin, hand over the stone. Bullet laughed wildly. Charlotte Linlin supported her body with a big knife, and even had no time to wipe off the blood dripping from the corner of her mouth. It doesn't matter if you want to fight, but until then. So the cowardice in my heart just now has disappeared. Bullet roared wildly. The battle between them is not over yet. The corner of Enel's mouth twitched. Really? Chapter 283 The Second Stone. Surrender Katakuri. It should be said that it is Charlotte Linlin. Even though she was severely injured beforehand and was surrounded by powerful enemies, the battle between her and Bullet still lasted for half a day before the winner was finally decided. The result is of course obvious: Bullet won the final victory. Charlotte Linlin's indestructible body is not invincible in the true sense, and she doesn't even need a high-end hockey. As long as the pure strength is enough, it can already cause damage to her. And Bullet has mastered high-end hockey, and the power is also unmatched. Even in a frontal battle, Charlotte Linlin could only fall into the disadvantage, let alone she was seriously injured. But I have to say that she is really resistant to beatings. Even so, Bullet spent half a day and finally made her unable to stand up again. During this battle, Charlotte Linlin had indeed shown extraordinary willpower. It was hard to believe that he had chosen to escape without hesitation just before. She continued to use her soul to strengthen her body, and eventually became as huge as a giant, and her strength increased to an astonishing level. But unfortunately, Bullet is still better. Half of Kekaluo Island was directly destroyed because of the battle between the two of them, and the country almost fell into a state of destruction directly because of this. However, the Knights of God who have single-handedly caused the current situation don't care about it. It is the Illuminati who pay attention to ordinary countries and the situation of civilians, and have nothing to do with them. 4 Knights of the God stood on the shore of the fragmented coast, and a huge red stone was placed in front of them. It took quite a while to find the stone, because the stone itself was stored on a large ship, and the Charlotte family's seagoing ship had already been sunk to the bottom of the sea during the battle just now. So only after the battle was over, Bullet used the power of his dominance to turn up the entire seabed and rummage through it before finally finding the trace of this piece of cloth. In this case, God's mission has been completed. Yoroj said with a smile. Even though this guy had gone through such a fierce battle just now, he didn't leave any wounds on his body at all. Perhaps he suffered a lot of trauma during the battle, but such injuries have already recovered long ago. It's just that the clothes on his body have been destroyed, and now he can only stand naked on the shore. So what's the deal with these guys? Moria turned her head. In the fierce battle just now, many members of the Charlotte family were killed. However, not all the cadres were killed, and there are still many powerful or purely lucky guys who survived. Including Charlotte Linlin herself. They were deliberately picked out and piled up in the back. Did you kill it directly? Or ask God for instructions? Although when sending them over, God said that he only needed to get back the stone, and he didn't care about the rest. However, the guys captured this time were not simple. Please ask God. Enel thought about it. There are still quite a few powerful people in the Charlotte family. What if God had his eyes on them? Not to mention that there are many beauties in this family. God might be interested in them too. Thus, the Island of the Gods. Du Lin received a call request from Bullet. Oh, is it over? Du Lin smiled and nodded. Good job. Really, you have captured all the main cadres of the Charlotte family. Well, let's bring them all back together. So in the next second, the ability to dominate was activated. Flames sprang from the bodies of the 4 god knights far away on Kokolo Island in the New World, enveloping everything around them. Then in the next second, in the Temple of God's Island, a group of people appeared directly below Du Lin, who was sitting on the throne. And with them came the bright red stone. God. The 4 knights knelt down immediately. Well done. Du Lin appreciated it. He looked at the red stone. In this case, the 4 roadsides have already gathered 2 yuan in their hands. The remaining 2 pieces are not expected to be too long. We only need to find the whereabouts of the Whitebeard pirates in Elephant Island Zoo, and we can start with ease. You are overrated. This is our duty. Enel was very respectful. Du Lin nodded slightly. He looked at the members of the Lot family who were piled together. The most conspicuous, of course, embodies the huge Charlotte Linlin. This woman's body was beaten and distorted, her whole body was covered in blood, and she looked extremely detached. So what to do with this guy? Although I originally thought that it didn't matter whether this group of people lived or died, but now they have been sent to him. Wouldn't it be a pity to just kill them all? Du Lin's collection addiction is committed again. Wake them up. Du Lin said. Yes. Enel nodded slightly, and immediately released healing flames, covering the members of the Charlotte family. Of course, it doesn't mean to completely heal their injuries. God's order is only to wake them up, so it is enough for them to wake up. This didn't take too long. Charlotte Linlin was the first to experience trembling eyelids. Then it was Katakuri who opened his eyes. When the main cadres of the Charlotte family were gradually waking up, Du Lin waved his hand, and Enel knowingly stopped the flame output. Boy, Charlotte Linlin struggled to sit up, but she was only indestructible and did not have the terrible recovery ability of Du Lin. After struggling for a long time, she still could only lie on the ground, tilting her head to look at Du Lin. She is like this, and the cadres of the family are even more unbearable. Except for Katakuri, who can move a little bit, everyone else can only watch Zhao Li's quietly and listen quietly. Accordingly, I should have slaughtered your heavy lot Linlin. Du Lin said leisurely, I haven't forgotten about the Sphinx yet. However, it seems a pity to kill you like this. So, Du Lin smiled and said, what is your decision? Surrender or destruction? Mom, who do you think I know? I have already escaped once today, and Junlot Linlin, who is deeply ashamed of this, will never succumb to it a second time. She laughed wildly and shouted, do you want my old lady to submit to you? Du Lin nodded knowingly, not as expected. So, what about you, Katakuri? Du Lin looked at the motionless Katakuri, do you want to live with your brothers and sisters? Or die together? Katakuri. Charlotte Linlin froze for a moment, then turned her head abruptly. Chapter 284 The Charlotte Family Surrenders. Crashing Sea. Katakuri fell silent. His face didn't change much, but his trembling pupils could tell that his heart was not at peace. The Charlotte family suffered a heavy loss in today's battle. In the previous battle of the Sphinx, many younger brothers and sisters had already died there. And after today, the number of brothers and sisters who can still survive is less than a quarter of the heyday, and there are only a dozen people still alive at this time. The root of everything is because of the man in front of him, because of him and the knights he commanded. All the younger brothers and sisters died because of him, but at this time this man wanted to recruit himself. However, Katakuri had to seriously consider this man's proposal. Because if you refuse, all your brothers and sisters will die. Katakuri didn't want them to die. Mom, I rejected your solicitation, are you targeting my children now? Charlotte Linlin sneered at Du Lin while spitting blood, it's too contemptuous, brat. My mother's children are not as spineless as you think. That's right, Katakuri. But Katakuri didn't answer. Hey, Katakuri. 203 Charlotte Linlin suddenly became a little panicked, and her voice became louder, I'm right. Katakuri still didn't answer her, but turned his head little by little to look at his brothers and sisters. Everyone looked extremely miserable. There are large and small wounds on the body, and more limbs are distorted. Everyone is looking at him. But the eyes are different. Cracker Owen's eyes were full of unyielding, they should want to tell themselves that there must be no compromise. But there was some pleading in the eyes of Brother Peros and Dafu, they probably didn't want to die yet. As for the eyes of the other brothers and sisters, they were even closer to bewildered. At a loss for the current situation, at a loss for their future. How should I do it? How should we choose now? Katakuri was also confused. Of course he was full of hatred for this man who claimed to be a god, after all, so many younger brothers and sisters died because of him. If he could, he'd also want to laugh at the guy like his mother did, and show no. Tell him that if you want to recruit yourself, you might as well eat AGCC shit. But Katakuri didn't dare. Du Lin said leisurely, this shouldn't be a difficult choice, Katakuri. If you choose to accept, then all brothers and sisters will be able to survive, but if you choose to refuse, everyone will die because of you. I heard that the cadres of the Charlotte family have always loved each other. You will never bear to see your brothers and sisters who are hanging by a thread, just because of your dignity, accompany you to hell. As expected of Du Lin, even if he is already the top powerhouse in the world, the forces under his command are undoubtedly the top 2 in the world. Even so, he still has no regard for face, and he naturally uttered such threatening words. You brat. Charlotte Linlin gritted her teeth a bit. She didn't even have to turn her head to know that Katakuri was shaken now. For her son, she certainly knows better than anyone else. Katakuri is almost a perfect successor, with no omissions in strength, wisdom and will. But the only ones who care too much about his younger brothers and sisters are that they don't hesitate to wear scarves to cover their faces. What choices this kid would make for his younger siblings Charlotte Linlin had no guesses. She suddenly felt a little reconciled. Originally, he thought that he could use his own death to laugh at this guy's plan as a failure, but now it seems that he is the one who failed the plan. Just as she thought, Katakuri's face changed for a while. If it was just him, he would undoubtedly choose to refuse, and he would never bow to those who hurt his younger siblings. However, he is not alone now. Katakuri sighed. Then he said, I accept. Great. Du Lin clapped his hands and smiled, you made the most correct decision, Katakuri. Although Charlotte Linlin chose to refuse, it didn't matter, it was enough for Katakuri to accept. This guy also has the talent to become a knight of God. If you can master the Conqueror's winding, you can undoubtedly become a top powerhouse in the true sense. His brothers and sisters who survived by chance are not bad either. After all, it is indeed Charlotte's most elite cadres who survived the battle just now. These guys can be a good supplement to the combat power under the Knight of the Gods. Unexpectedly, Round Lotter Linlin was not saying anything. His eyes are a little complicated. Of course, Charlotte Linlin is somewhat dissatisfied with the current result. She originally wanted to laugh at Du Lin's wishful thinking, but now Du Lin's goal is at least half achieved. However, Charlotte Linlin suddenly found that she didn't seem to want to speak out to stop Katakuri. After all, he was his own child no matter what. At this moment, Zenlot Linlin suddenly had some maternal love. Okay, Enel, take this woman to Vegapunk. Du Lin said casually. Although Charlotte Linlin was dead, she couldn't just die like that. At least her devil fruit ability is meant to be replicated. As for you, Du Lin raised his hand, and the genocide had already started splashing at his fingertips. At the same time, the battle that took place on Kokolo Island gradually began to cause turmoil around the world. After all, the two parties involved in the battle are the Knights of God under the command of the Sun God and the Charlotte family. Both are powerful forces in the world, and the fierce battle between them will naturally cause huge waves in this seemingly peaceful world. But what shocked the people at sea the most was of course the result of the battle. Of course, the people on Kekuluo Island did not dare to approach this battlefield, but in order to confirm the next outcome of the island, they still had the courage to quietly observe the battlefield from a long distance. So people in the sea know about it. As a result of that battle, the Charlotte family ushered in defeat. The 4 god knights headed by Bullet completely defeated one of the strongest pirate groups in the sea. Charlotte Linlin and the cadres of the family were all taken prisoner. If the two sides go to war, then the people in the sea have already expected such a result. After all, who would have thought that the Charlotte family had the power of the god of war, the god of the sun? But when the Charlotte family was really defeated, the people at Yinhai couldn't help being shocked as well. There is only one question in their minds. Is the era of pirates really coming to an end? Chapter 284. The New Sun Knight. Is the age of pirates really over? After the Charlotte family was completely defeated, there were absolutely not a few people in Dahai who had such thoughts. Now the situation on the sea is quite clear, and the bipolar pattern of confrontation between the Sun God and the world government can no longer be shaken. They are constantly squeezing the living space of the pirates. From 4 seas to Grand Line. Now even New World is being eroded. Even the most powerful pirate groups are powerless in the face of such two pressures. The Beast's pirates were kicked out of Wanokuni, and the Whitebeard pirates also moved from the back section of New World, where they had always stayed, to the front section. And now, the Charlotte family has been directly defeated, and Charlotte Linlin herself has been captured. One of the 3 most powerful pirate groups in the world has been wiped out, will the remaining 2 be far behind? This is true for the pirate groups at the top, and even worse for the bottom pirate groups. The expansion of the Illuminati has greatly compressed their living space, not to mention that the world government is now following up. It has only been a few years since the opening of the Great Pirate Era. Is it going to end like this? It is really hard for people not to have such thoughts. But of course, most people are happy about it. After all, who wants to live in an era where pirates are rampant? Of course, the more peaceful the better. But is peace really possible? Even if the pirates won't wreak havoc anymore, even more terrifying things are probably still brewing. Everyone in the sea knows that the war between the Sun God and the world government is absolutely impossible to avoid. That will definitely be a terrible war that will shatter the world and may overturn the whole world. The world does not yet know what will become of it. In addition to ordinary people lamenting the hardships of the world, the people standing at the top of this sea are also shocked by this battle. Lin. Somewhere in New World, Kaido was wailing while drinking. What the hell are you doing, you idiot? Is it so easy to be killed? When he first joined Rock's Pirate, the old woman kept saying that she wanted to cover him. As a result, he is now one step ahead. Damn it. That B******************. D. Lousy will smash him into meatloaf sooner or later. Woo. Sometimes laughing, sometimes crying. This is the picture of Guy of Beasts. A guy who can be called a monster in any aspect. Another sea area of New World, the Whitebeard pirates. That Charlotte Linlin guy got killed too. Marco flipped through the newspaper and sighed. With only 4 Knights of the Gods dispatched, the Charlotte family has no power to resist. However, considering their strength, this is also a matter of course. Everyone in the Sphinx battle witnessed it with their own eyes. The strength of that group of people can only be described as shocking, especially the man who claims to be a god. The expeditionary force organized by the world government was easily and completely defeated by him alone. That group of people, without a doubt, truly possessed the history of subverting the whole world. Are you trying to get revenge for what happened to the Sphinx at that time? In the crowd, the fat black man was a little scared. If the Charlotte family is targeted because of this, wouldn't we be the same? The cadres of the Whitebeard pirates were inevitably a little silent at this time. If they were enemies with that group, then their fate would not be much better than that of the Charlotte family. Even Whitebeard didn't speak. He pursed his lips and just drank his wine in silence. In his mind, he suddenly had an idea. In the sky somewhere in the world, a huge black shadow is hidden in the clouds and mist. The interior of this shadow. Did you simply want revenge? Or did you go for the stone? The 5 elders are gathering for a little meeting. Someone in Kokura Island saw that they took away the historical text of the road sign held by Charlotte Linlin. Is it normal to collect the loot, or is it specially for the stone? I don't know. This kind of thing can only be resolved by asking that B********** D in person. It's a pity that we don't know where the rest of the historical text of the road signs is, otherwise if he is really collecting road signs, we can give them a wait and see. It's okay now. If that guy's goal is revenge, we can definitely find out the whereabouts of the Whitebeard pirates and the Beasts pirates in advance. 0. Ask for flowers. Then let's try it out. Anyway, there are no other clues now, even if it may be futile in the end, it is better to try than to stay here and wait. The world government also began to search. When the world began to become undulating, the island of gods once again fell into tranquility. Du Lin planted a fire for Katakuri and his brothers and sisters. Even die-hards like Cracker and Owen, under Katakuri's persuasion, finally had to accept the fire bestowed by Du Lin. But for the time being, they have not been given back their freedom, and they have all been shackled by Seastone. After all, there are a little too many people, and before the fire starts to work, if they gather a crowd to make trouble, it will be a bit troublesome. That guy, there's something wrong with the flame that guy gave us. The members of the Charlotte family were placed in a temporary prison, the force frame almost gritted his teeth. My anger and hatred for that B********** D is constantly decreasing. Instead, I have started to respect him constantly. Damn it. Are all of that guy's subordinates like this? Instead of becoming like them, Lousy might as well die. Cracker. Katakuri looked at his manic younger brother, not knowing what to say. Of course, he also noticed the problem of those kindling seeds. The minds of those who have been planted with fire are changing. No matter how loathing and hatred they used to be, they will only become full of worship for the sun god in the end. What a terrifying ability. But, what can we do now? Or even if we know about it, what can we do? Thankfully, on day 2, Cracker's author was far less manic. He began to gradually accept the reverence he had for that god. Katakuri's mood became more complicated. But of course this kind of complexity didn't last long, and he also began to feel that it was great to be planted in this activity. As a result, the shackles that bound them were lifted, the gate of the prison that held them was opened, and they officially became members of the Sun Knight. Congratulations. This is the so-called, take a step back and write. Chapter 285, Elephant Island. Indeed, it has been some days since I have seen the sun's brilliance again. When Katakuri was released from the prison, he looked up at the brilliance falling from the sky, feeling a little inexplicable in his heart for a moment. In any case, he survived with his brothers and sisters. Even, you can also bathe in the brilliance of the sun. Then, he was immediately summoned by God. Katakuri. Du Lin looked down at the members of the Charlotte family who had just been released from prison. Even Charlotte Cracker, who was the most rebellious in the past, still revealed a murderous light in her eyes when she accepted his fire. Now she looks at her with nothing but admiration and fanaticism. Yes, my God, Katakuri, who has always been calm, also has passionate emotions in his eyes that cannot be concealed. He expresses 380 to Du Lin all the time to show his admiration for himself. Whether it's Katakuri, Cracker, or even the other brothers and sisters of the Charlotte family, all of them know what happened to them. All of them are very clear that the fanatical worship at this time is all because of the fire that the sun god bestowed on them. Their thinking was distorted by the kindling. So much so that they should be full of hatred for this man, but at this moment, all that is left in their hearts is fanatical admiration. It is precisely because their thinking has been distorted that they feel joyful about it, and regard everything as a gift from the gods, which is the most proud thing. What a terrifying force. Du Lin was once again shocked by the power of the fire he bestowed. If there is no such power, it may take 10 times more effort to conquer this world. After all, there are not so many obedient and easy-to-use subordinates, and I can only do many things in person, so how can I have time to play with the maids every day so leisurely? Go ahead and fight for me as a member of the Sun Knights, with your brothers and sisters. Du Lin said so. Katakuri has the qualifications to become a knight of the gods. But at this time there is no second high-level fire to give him, so he has to wait for a while. It's not just Katakuri, Cracker and Smoothie, the two future dessert stars, of course have the same qualifications. Especially Crackers. The strength shown by this guy in the original work is quite outstanding. If he overcomes the shortcoming of being afraid of pain, he may not be much inferior to Katakuri. Du Lin decided to make them all a member of the Knights of God. Anyway, it would be a waste to not use the soul power that condensed high-level tinder. Create more Knights of the Gods, so that you can gain more power. Yes, Katakuri couldn't keep calm anymore, and couldn't help declaring excitedly, we will fight for you. We will fight until we die. Until death. Du Lin smiled. No, even after death, you will enter my kingdom and continue to fight for me as the spirit of fire. As expected of Du Lin. People continue to be exploited even after they die, and such words can be said openly. If it was an ordinary beater, when he heard his boss say that, he would have already wanted to explode and punch this guy's dog's head. But it is a pity that at this time Katakuri and others' loyalty to Du Lin is beyond doubt. On the contrary, they were moved to tears. Yes. Unparalleled excitement, unmatched excitement. Being able to turn into flames and continue fighting for God after death, is there anything better in the world than this? Du Lin nodded slightly. In any case, this time the power under his command has been well supplemented. The gap in combat power between the Knights of God and the Knights of the Sun has been filled. But if you think about it carefully, it doesn't seem to make any sense. If you are at war with the world government and I am, these guys don't seem to be of much use. Think of it as a favorite. Du Lin thought so. Leaving Katakuri and his brothers and sisters to study the power of fire, Du Lin's life fell into peace once again. However, the appearance of the Charlotte family made the Gion Rear Admiral on the island of the gods even more frightening. She probably knew the conflict between Du Lin and this group of people, so when she saw a rebellious guy like Katakuri bowing to Du Lin, she was even more afraid of Du Lin's power. Fortunately, her will to resist is very firm, otherwise, she might have already become like this. But Ms. Gion's thoughts are insignificant, and the days passed peacefully. But only the island of gods is calm. All over the world, the search forces under Du Lin's command have not stopped for a moment. The search for the Whitebeard pirates, the search for Zhou Chong, the search for the remnants of the Roger pirates. It can be said to be a three-pronged approach. Such a search soon came to fruition. God. This time it was Mahad who came to meet Du Lin, in the back part of New World, in the sea area we covered, someone witnessed the trail of a giant elephant. Quote. Du Lin became a little interested, are you sure? I had a Sun Knight follow me. Mahad said solemnly, it has been confirmed that it is the legendary Zhou of Elephant Island. After all, there should be no second spine in the world that can soar into the clouds, and there are 10 giant elephants in the Panjin forest behind it. Very good. Du Lin smiled appreciatively. Du Lin thinks so. 5.5. The big ones are a bit too exaggerated. So, will he know where Joey Boy keeps all the secrets? Even the giant sea king summoned by Shirahoshi in his original book are far from this guy. 27 kilometers tall, his feet are on the bottom of the sea, but his back is in the clouds. Du Lin smiled and stood up from the throne. Let's take a look at the largest creature in the world. It's worth asking. In this way, the third landmark, the historical text, is already within reach. The giant elephant used to be Joey Boy's partner, and he has been waiting for the appearance of the new Joey Boy, waiting for the appointed moment. Du Lin didn't look at him, he looked at the giant elephant. Oh, interesting. Witnessing the sudden appearance of the god, the giant elephant that had been following him, the Sun Knight who led the god as the coordinates, quickly bowed down respectfully. God, there should be no creature bigger than the elephant master in the world, right? Go then, Mahad. When this elephant appeared in Du Lin's eyes, there was inevitably a hint of shock in his eyes. Du Lin sighed. And, perhaps, there's no need to look for a fourth signpost. Chapter 286. Tu Shang. Du Lin heard the elephant's voice. The giant elephant was walking and groaning. But most people can't hear his roar at all. Even the race living on his back, known as the Fur Tribe, has almost never heard the sound of this elephant during this long period of time. But Du Lin can hear it, he can not only hear it but also understand it. Du Lin's body is fully equipped in terms of hockey. Back then, he had easily mastered the advanced skills of armament hockey and conqueror's hockey just by sparring with Roger. With the passage of time, even observation hockey's moves of foreseeing the future and killing by knowledge have been mastered naturally. The skill of listening to the voice of all things is even more proficient and cannot be more proficient. Even if Roger is resurrected and Joey Boy is reborn, it is absolutely impossible to surpass him in this respect. Therefore, he could hear very clearly what the elephant said. This giant elephant has been walking on the sea for an unknown number of years. Legends say that he once made a big mistake, was punished by his master, and walked on the sea without staying for a moment. But Du Lin knew that rumors about the 7th of May not be true. The giant elephant's partner is the legendary Joey Boy, who has been waiting for the appearance of the new Joey Boy. The elephant is walking and talking to itself. He was calling for Joey Boy, calling that name, hoping that he would appear soon. It seems that during this long time, he has really suffered a lot. The wings on Du Lin's back vibrated, and it turned into a golden trail that instantly traversed the sky and came directly in front of the elephant. Mahad rode on the back of the cursed dragon and immediately followed, but he was separated by a little distance and did not come up to disturb the action of the god. As the distance got closer, Du Lin could see more clearly. This elephant was already too old, many parts of its body were completely decayed, and even its eyelids were rotten to cover its eyes. He didn't notice Du Lin's appearance at all, and he was still walking forward on his own. Can you tell me, who is Joey Boy? Du Lin was still slightly curious about that guy. The elephant's body paused for a moment, but its steps still did not stop. Can you hear my voice? Du Lin nodded slightly. Although this kind of talent is rare, there should not be a few people who have mastered it. Joey Boy was like that. Giant elephant's voice was majestic, as shocking as the red Lu Dazong. He is an extraordinary talent, but also a loser who almost saved the world. So, what happened 800 years ago? Du Lin asked. But the giant box replied, I can't say. Joey Boy left everything in the final island. You can find it yourself, but I can't say. That is to say, I want you to lead the way, and you will not agree to take me to the final island. Du Lin sighed. Everything that Joey Boy left behind is there, but I can't take you there. That's the test he left behind. Giant Elephant said, if you can't even do this test, then it is absolutely impossible to complete the unfinished business of Joey Boy and open up a new future for this world. It sounds really exciting. But, if I insist on letting you take me there. Du Lin said calmly, no way. Elephant's voice was calm and flat, I will never go against Joey Boy's will. So it's impossible for me to ask you to follow me. Of course I will only submit to Joey Boy's will. That's it. Du Lin tilted his head. In the original book, I obviously listened to the orders of that kid Momosuke. As a result, he is unwilling to obey his will now, which is really a headache. Aren't you saying that you are inferior to that boy Momonosuke? It might be a little too hurtful. God, do you need to get rid of this guy? Mahad drove the cursed dragon to fly over. Although he couldn't understand what the elephant said, he could also hear from the words of God that the elephant absolutely failed God's request. From this point, it can already be explained that this elephant has committed an unforgivable crime. Not in a hurry. Du Lin smiled, his eyes narrowed. The over-limit mode has been turned on silently. At least get the head. Du Lin just waved his hand, and the overwhelming flames had spread in an instant. As if the sky was falling downwards, the back of the entire giant elephant was completely wrapped at this moment. Behind the elephant is a huge forest, deep in the forest is a small country, and in the center of the country is a towering tree like a whale. And at this moment, whether it's the forest, the country, or that huge tree, everything has been wrapped in flames. Then, everything was forcibly dragged to the sky. Including the people living behind the elephant, and the red stone hidden in the belly of the big tree, all of these were forcibly dragged up to the sky by the flames at this moment. The fur tribe living on the back of the giant elephant did not realize what happened. When the flames fell from the sky, they thought it was a punishment from the gods. Everything will be completely ended today. But they soon discovered that these flames didn't seem to be destructive, but when they enveloped them, they felt very comfortable. But even so, being dragged into the sky by these flames is by no means a joyful experience. Most of the fur tribe cannot fly, and letting them fly above the sky undoubtedly brought them great fear. But Du Lin didn't have time to deal with these orcs for the time being. He looked at the red stone wrapped in flames in front of him. The third piece. A smile appeared on Du Lin's face. That would leave only the last stone in Whitebeard's hand. It shouldn't be too long, and the whereabouts of the Whitebeard pirates will never be too secretive. If you want to find it, you can definitely find it. After nodding contentedly, Du Lin looked down at the giant elephant. Die the nasty guy. What God advocates is to do whatever one wants. Du Lin grabbed the void with his hand. The blazing flame sword has been held in his palm. Then, go to hell. Chapter 287. The Fur Race. Probably because he has gradually gotten used to being a god instead of a person, so Du Lin has become more and more disgusted with people going against his will. Asking Gion to train Yamato is nothing more than a great interest, at best it can be regarded as an adjustment in life. But this elephant doesn't have Gion's good skin, which can make Du Lin feel pleasing, he just feels offended. Offended, so must be punished. Du Lin's logic is that simple. The great sword of the flame has been raised high, and the hot flame turns into a spiral and hovers into the sky. The fur tribes who were bound by the flames and flew into the sky noticed Du Lin. It's also really hard not to notice. The flames soaring into the sky made them feel the terrifying heat unavoidably, as if their bodies were about to be ignited. What is that? Did he make us fly? Who the hell are they? Elephant Island is even more isolated than Nine Snake Island. After all, there is still a Snake pirates on Snake Island who will always go to sea to get the latest news from the sea. But Zook on Elephant Island is completely different. The fur tribe lives on the back of an elephant more than 10,000 meters above the ground. Just like the residents on Sky Island, whether it is going up or down is extremely difficult, the degree of blockage of external communication can be seen in Madara. Not to mention that the Elephant Master is still wandering in New World, and it is extremely difficult to communicate with the outside world. The fur tribes don't even know what Dulin's background is, even if he has already become famous all over the world at this time. They were just yelling in terror. Dulin didn't pay attention to their shouts, but silently increased the output of the flames in his hands. Two kinds of flames, red and yellow, gushed out from the blade. A terrifying double helix structure spread upwards, forming a huge pillar of flame that penetrated directly into the sky. Aang. The elephant has started roaring angrily. He already has the ability to communicate with specific people, but now he has of course noticed Dulin's naked and undisguised malice. I still want to wait for Joey's return. The huge nose that looked like a pillar supporting the sky had already swung towards Dulin. How long is this nose? The height of the Elephant Master is 27 kilometers. Of course, his body structure is very weird, especially his legs. But even so, judging from his body proportions, the length of this nose definitely exceeds 5 kilometers. This is of course a devastating blow. If it landed on a small island, it would be enough to smash the island into pieces easily. But, Dulin just waved his sword indifferently. The raging flame turned into a slash at this moment. It is the flying slash that belongs to the great swordsman in the true sense. Dulin hadn't practiced swordsmanship much at all, or he hadn't practiced conjoined bodywork at all. All his fighting skills in the past are just 4 words in the final analysis: the strength is big and the bricks fly. The overwhelming power is enough to make up for the lack of technical skills. But after possessing the 2 abilities of learning and exploring, Dulin's learning ability has become outrageously strong. Just watching Gion teach Yamato to pass the time when he is bored, he has almost completely mastered Gion's swordsmanship. Not to mention that when he fought Rayleigh before, that guy's sword belonged to Dulin. The superposition of the two, coupled with Dulin's own deduction, his swordsmanship is so strong, even if he is not the #1 swordsman in the world, I am afraid that he is not far behind. The magnificent flame turned into a magnificent slash. With the blessing of the over-limit mode, this blow Dulin spared no expense. In the end, the scale of the black and red intersecting slashes was not even much smaller than that of the Elephant Master. The flames slashing cut off the nose of the Elephant Master in an instant, and then poured into his body, directly tearing this huge island-like body from the center. The Elephant Master's body is of course unusually tough. Even during this long period of time, a large part of his body has decayed, but this decay is only the surface of the body after all. The inside of the body is not much inferior to that of 800 years ago. After all, it is not necessary to say how tough its muscles and bones are to support such a huge body to move normally. However, no matter how tough the body is, it is meaningless at all. The slash issued by Dulin did not directly split the elephant into 2. However, the lower part of his head was directly torn apart, and even the front half of his body was penetrated by flames. What's worse is that the flames emitted by the flaming demon sword Leviathan spread across his body in an instant like maggots attached to the bones. And from the inside out. While burning ragingly inside the body, it quickly spread to the whole body. This huge elephant has turned into a fire elephant at this moment. Hold head high. This time, everyone could hear the mournful roar clearly. Many of the fur tribes floating in the sky were so shocked that they passed out directly. Elephant Lord. However, some powerful rough feet were still awake, and they almost looked at the burning elephant below in horror. This, the place where they have lived for generations, is this giant elephant called the Elephant Lord going to be burned alive now? The Elephant Master is indeed dying. Dulin's slash had already caused fatal damage to him, not to mention the raging flames at this moment. Even monsters that have lived in this world for thousands of years, after suffering such trauma, of course can only die sadly. Joey boy. Roaring like this, the giant elephant's body still crashed to the ground after all, and fell heavily well into the sea water, creating waves of huge waves. Well, Dulin put away the flame sword in his hand, and said with some joy, I don't know how many creatures in the sea can be fed by this corpse, it can be regarded as infinite merit. The so-called whale fall is really weak compared to the elephant owner at this time. Just surrounding this corpse alone, I am afraid that a huge ecological circle can be formed. Maybe it will eventually form a real island to kill. But this has nothing to do with Dulin. Elephant Lord, dead. The conscious fur tribes in the sky were completely stunned. Are their homes gone? At this time, the contented Dulin finally turned to look at them. Well, what should these guys do? It seems very pitiful to lose my home. Then let the great gods save them. Chapter 288. The choice of the fur race. The fur clan is a rather peculiar group. Their appearance is similar to the orc images that often appear in the online novels Dulin read before traveling. Of course not that kind of green-skinned orc, but furry, this kind. The appearance is a mixture of humans and animals, and it belongs to the appearance that is completely acceptable to human aesthetic concepts. At least, the great sun god can fully accept it, and who can refuse the cute little rabbit? However, the most important thing about the fur tribe is of course not their appearance. This tribe also has extraordinary strength. Even among the many tribes in New World, they are by no means weak. Fur tribes are born with the ability to discharge static electricity. Although it is far inferior to Enel's thunder fruit in terms of power, its strength is definitely not low, enough to be used as a weapon in battle. And most importantly, the fur tribe also has the ability to transform under the full moon. If the fur tribe looks directly at the full moon, it will enter a state of rampage, just like a Super Saiyan turning into a big ape, and get all round increases, but they will not lose their minds because of this. No matter how you look at it, these are a group of natural fighters. Of course, the sun god, who has a strong collection habit, will not just sit back and watch them be destroyed. Let's change places first. Du Lin smiled lightly. Just by snapping his fingers lightly, the surrounding scene has completely changed. With the blessing of the over-limit mode, even moving with tens of thousands of fur tribes in an instant is a breeze. As for the destination, Du Lin chose Wano Kuni. Although you can choose anywhere, but at least the country is larger, and it is convenient for subsequent arrangements. Tens of thousands of fur tribes were wrapped in flames and appeared directly above the capital of Wano Kuni, the flower capital. This scene was quite shocking. The residents living in this city were directly taken aback. Compared with the time when Du Lin came, this country has undergone tremendous changes. Now there is no such thing as a samurai in Wano Kuni. Lord Bullet, who now rules the country, wiped out the group called the samurai. When he first ruled the country, the daimyos of the villages led the samurai to launch a rebellion. As a result, the rebel army was easily and completely defeated by Lord Bullet, and all the daimyos died as a result. As a result, Lord Bullet abolished the right of the Wano Kuni samurai to bear swords, and promulgated a decree called the Ban on Swords. Since then, Wano Kuni has not allowed any more samurai to exist. It's not that the people of Wano Kuni didn't protest, but when more and more people died, the courage of the remaining people became smaller and smaller. So now, the only people in this country that are allowed to possess weapons are Lord Bullet and his pirates. Yes, the pirate group under Bullet is still not disbanded. It's just that they still haven't recruited any powerful guys. The most powerful cadre is only offering a reward of 500 to 600 million, roughly equal to the elite vice admiral of naval headquarters. For Bullet, the best use of these guys is to help him guard Wano Kuni. But this is enough, so he can fight around with peace of mind. When a large area of flames appeared in the sky, Bullet, who lived in the castle tower built on a big tree in the center of the flower capital, realized something was wrong instantly. He jumped out of the Tiansho pavilion almost instantly, and jumped to the sky. A look of excitement crept across Bullet's face. The gods have finally come to Wano Kuni once again. In this case, I will finally be able to present the results of my governance over the years before God. Come with me, Bullet. Du Lin said with a smile. In the next second, he had already fluttered his wings and flew out, and the flames dragged the fur tribe tens of thousands of meters towards the periphery of the flower capital. Bullet followed immediately. Du Lin flew all the way to the depths of the wilderness beyond the capital of flowers. Speaking of which, Bullet wanted to show Du Lin his governance achievements over the years. But in fact, there is really no result at all. The standard of living of residents in Wano Kuni is probably only slightly better than it was in Kaido of the Beasts. Even the wilderness around the city is still wilderness, nothing has changed at all. If anything, Bullet has established a considerable degree of authority in the country. Moreover, it has successfully promoted the belief in the god of the sun, making everyone in this country a believer in God. Du Lin manipulated the flames and put all the fur tribes on the ground, and then the flames dissipated. The momentary overrun mode is also released. At the moment of release, even the current Du Lin is not. The over-limit mode is still a bit too much for mental consumption. Who the hell are you? What are you trying to bring us here for? When the flames dissipated, as soon as they stood firmly on the ground, there were already fur tribes screaming towards the soil in the inner domain. Fear, of course the fur people at this time are afraid. The elephant island where they have been living has been destroyed, and Shangzu, who had sheltered them for hundreds of years, was killed by the man in front of him. Even they didn't know what happened, and they were transferred to another completely strange place. At this time, besides fear, can there be any other emotions in my heart? This guy in front of me is a monster. Even the elephant master was killed by him. Now if he wants to destroy the fur tribe, they will not have any chance to resist. The masters of the fur tribe who were sober at this time were extremely pessimistic. At the same time, the bullet that followed him crashed to the ground, and the power of domination began to be activated. The earth began to deform in an instant. Just looking directly at this giant already made them tremble with fear. Question. Fear. Du Lin said leisurely, I just want to ask you a question. How do you choose? Rejection. Destruction. The fur tribes are caught in a dilemma. More intense fear surged up from the deepest part of my heart. Bullet's roar was like thunder. Du Lin smiled. There is no need to fear. Surrender or destroy, what will you choose? The fur tribes looked at each other. Du Lin asked with interest. The 1,000-meter-tall giant appeared in front of the fur tribes in the blink of an eye. He just lowered his body slightly, and the faces of a large number of fur tribes changed suddenly. Chapter 289 The Fur Tribe Submits. Whitebeard's decision. The situation is now very clear. The enemy that appeared in front of them at this time was definitely something they could not contend against anyway. The ruler of the Fur clan, His Royal Highness the Duke of the Furry Principality, is very aware of this matter. Not to mention the monster who killed the elephant owner with a single sword, even the strong man who manipulated the arrogant man in front of him is definitely not something they can contend with. As they said, if you choose to refuse now, then waiting for yourself and others will undoubtedly be the end of destruction, right? The fur people are certainly a very backbone race. In the original work, in order to hide the whereabouts of Lei Zhang, the country was attacked by Jack the Dro, and the whole country almost entered a state of extinction. The two leaders were also disabled by torture. But even so, they still didn't reveal any information, and they still kept the secret tightly. However, even for such a backbone fur family, when the matter is related to the life and death of the entire country and the entire ethnic group, of course they will inevitably be entangled in their hearts. Who the hell are you guys? Standing up at this time, facing Du Lin and Bullet, it was an elephant-shaped fur tribe who was inquiring towards Du Lin and Bullet. He was the Duke of the Furry Principality at this time and the protector of all the fur tribe. Although you are honored for what happened to you, you idiots. It is a great god who appears in front of you at this time. Bullet was chanting, creator of the world, ruler of all things, bringing light out of darkness, one god above all, supreme heel of the sun. The fur tribes were a little dazed when they heard Bullet's series of words. Can't understand, can't figure out what this guy is talking about. But this does not prevent them from knowing that the man in front of him flapping golden wings and manipulating flames is a real monster. Why? The elephant duke shouted at the top of his voice, why do you do this kind of thing? Why do you kill the elephant owner? Why do you want to destroy our hometown? They have lived in isolation on the back of elephants for hundreds of years. He has never been an enemy of anyone, and has never committed any crime. But why is it being treated like this today? The hometown was destroyed, everyone was displaced, and now they still suffer from the cruelest threat. Having never left their hometown, the simple fur people simply don't understand why they have to go through such a thing. Why? Du Lin smiled, probably because I want to do this. Want to do this. When the fur tribes heard Du Lin's answer, a creep came from the deepest part of their hearts. How terrible, how cruel and ruthless a person could be to say such things as if nothing had happened. That's right, there is only such a guy who can completely destroy their entire group in a calm manner. Fear. The unprecedented fear made Duke Elephant's entire body tremble. At this time, he was very sure that the moment he said no, the entire group would be destroyed in the most complete way. The elephant looked around, looked at his old friends, and looked down at his compatriots who were scattered around in a coma. The children were sweating, while the elders closed their eyes and frowned, sinking into a nightmare. He finally sighed. We surrendered. The elephant is not young anymore, but at this time it can only kneel tremblingly. There is no other choice. If you don't want to destroy it, you can only accept it honestly. Of course, he is personally unwilling to bow his head to the villain who destroyed his hometown and threatened them. However, the children must not be allowed to die together, and the inheritance of the entire ethnic group must not be completely cut off today. So I can only choose to compromise, I can only kneel in front of this man. Great. Du Lin was a little overjoyed. Although I didn't know the exact whereabouts from the elephant's mouth, but this trip has gained a lot. Not to mention getting the third road sign, now even the fur tribe has sworn allegiance to himself. It can be regarded as a great harvest. Now that they have sworn allegiance, of course, according to the usual practice, Du Lin also planted a fire for a high-level fur tribe. Then there is the key. Bullet. Du Lin looked at his knight. God. Bullet bowed and knelt down respectfully. What is your order? Then let the fur people live in Wanokuni. The elephant owner has been killed, and the fur clan lost their place of survival. So of course we have to find a place to live for them. Although they can be brought back to the Sky Island, but the islands on the Sky Island are almost remembered. Zero looking for flowers. But Wanokuni is different. It should be said to thank Bullet for his benevolent governance in the past few years. The population of Wanokuni has been greatly reduced, and a large area of land has been abandoned. Now it is completely a situation where the land is vast and the population is sparse. In this case, it is really suitable to cut out a piece of land for the fur tribe to live in. And didn't Wanokuni's Kazuki and below have a good relationship with the fur tribe? Although the Kazuki family is gone now, wouldn't everyone be happy if Wanokuni, which they once ruled, took out a piece of land? Du Lin felt that he really came up with a good idea. Yes. Bullet immediately responded respectfully, I'll immediately set aside a piece of land for them, and then let people move all the local civilians out. Bullet's words were very plain, and all the cooperating civilians on the land he circled were removed. But the actual implementation may not be a trivial matter. How many people will be ruined and forced to leave their homes because of this? I have something to do tonight, so I just came home and came up with a chapter. After the remaining 3 chapters, there is still righteousness. Sorry, box. Du Lin thought so. Looking down at the group of sons and daughters who followed him and overcome countless storms and waves on the sea, he felt a lot of emotion in his heart. Now that there are 3 stones in hand, only the last one in Whitebeard's hand remains. Du Lin nodded slightly. This kind of thing is inevitable, but Du Lin doesn't care about it. Bullet lowered his head even more. I have ordered the pirates under my command to search the nearby waters, but there has been no news. Really? Like yesterday. He has made his decision. On a certain deserted island, Whitebeard called all the cadres and ordinary members of the ship together. If you want to find Whitebeard, you have to rely on Morgan's information channels. But it shouldn't be too long. Du Lin asked again. However, there is no other choice now. By the way, is there any news about the Whitebeard pirates? What does it matter to him? But he didn't expect that when he was still looking for Whitebeard, something happened to the Whitebeard pirates. Chapter 290 The Whitebeard Pirates Disband. Lin had just returned to the Island of the Gods, and before his butt was hot on the throne, Morgans rushed to see him immediately. God. This guy's face is full of unbelievable horror at this time, and of course unavoidable, there is also unspeakable excitement. Big news, this time it is really big news that has never been seen before. Big news. Lin became slightly interested. Could it be that the world government finally couldn't hold back and declared war on us? Morgan's face stiffened visibly, and then he said with a smile, it's not that shocking yet, but the gap is not too big. Then let's talk about it. Lin leaned lazily on the throne, and said leisurely, what a breaking news. Hey, even you probably never thought about it, there is such a thing as 733. Morgans was laying the groundwork a bit, then he took a deep breath. The Whitebeard pirates are disbanded. Back in time, on a deserted island in the New World, Whitebeard called all his sons and daughters together. Daddy. Mark was still a little dazed, wondering why their father suddenly gathered all of them together and put on a sullen expression that he hadn't seen for a long time. Only the fat black man in the crowd had a vague premonition, and he had already clenched his teeth quietly. Whitebeard has been looking at the vast sea behind the children. After a long pause, he regained his senses as if he had just woken up from a dream. He lowered his head and looked at Marco, who was standing in the front. Marco, how much has our Whitebeard pirates become? Marco's heart skipped a beat at this moment. He heard the bleakness in his father's tone that could not be concealed no matter what. Dad, what's the matter? Marco was nervous in his heart, but he pretended to be cheerful and replied, it's been 17 or 18 years. When I was a child, I was already following behind you, Dad. It is you who gave our homeless children a warm home. Behind him, those cadres who have followed Whitebeard since he was a child are deeply touched. All of them were alone until they met the man in front of them, their father. Whitebeard's eyes had become very complicated. These children have a home because of him, but why not himself? He was alone since he was a child, and he went to sea just to have his family. It was because of meeting these children that he finally felt the warmth of home. Whitebeard looked around at the faces of the children in front of him. Each of them grew up with his own eyes, and each of them grew up from a child to an adult step by step behind him. Each one is his favorite child and his favorite family. But there are already a lot of people missing. In the previous battle of the Sphinx. Yizang, Namur, Whitey Bay, Lakoyo, Blenheim. How many of my favorite children were lost in that war alone? Looking at the children in front of them who couldn't help showing worry because of their abnormality, Whitebeard finally made up his mind at this moment. Thank you so much, my boys. Whitebeard's voice suddenly became high-pitched, with a hearty smile that everyone was familiar with. Thank you for giving me a warm home. At this moment, even the most obtuse members of the Whitebeard pirates realized that something was wrong. Daddy, Marco screamed almost in fear. What are you talking about? We should thank you for giving us a home. That's right, Father, it's us who should be thanking you. Yes, Father, please don't say such things. Everyone immediately started shouting. Cool la la la. Whitebeard's smile became even brighter, and his voice sounded like thunder. Then, children, am I still competent as a father? Marco couldn't hold back the tears. Of course, you will always be our only father. That's right, Father. The other sons and daughters were also moved, and some who were a little more emotional were even crying bitterly now. That's it, that's enough. Whitebeard smiled and nodded, then he took a deep breath. So. Daddy. Marco was already conscious, he almost begged and screamed low. But Whitebeard just shook his head firmly, and then announced loudly, I declare that the Whitebeard pirates will disband today. So on this deserted island where no one cares, shocking news spread. Back to the present, Lin was really taken aback when he heard Morgan's words. Morgan said, who disbanded? You mean, the Whitebeard pirates? When I first received the following news, it was also unbelievable. But it is indeed the truth. Morgans almost danced. Whitebeard personally contacted my branch, let's spread the news to the sea. Yes, at the end of the new world, Whitebeard will bear all the grievances, and he will be there waiting for you to finish everything. Morgans bowed his knees respectfully. The time is a week later, and the location is Waterstar Island. As expected of a god. Lin didn't know what to say for a while. What is the reason? Unless that fellow Whitebeard is trying to fool the world. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Lin raised his eyebrows slightly. You don't want to say that guy will wait for me somewhere, and then finish everything. Morgans laughed again. After the Whitebeard pirates were announced to be disbanded, the Whitebeard guy didn't just disappear in the sea. It's just an inexplicable sigh in my heart. Morgans chuckled. 1.2 inches that guy Whitebeard just doesn't want his sons and daughters to be targeted by us. Lin smiled. Is there any other news? He. Of course I saw the end of the Charlotte family, and knew that they would never escape your punishment, so those who gave up on themselves could only choose to escape. Hey, what a kind father. Oh, it turned out to be true. You look pretty sure. It's hard to imagine that Whitebeard guy would make such a decision.